guys, what is going on? It is Obadiah, and today we are back with another episode of Musical Hideout, the show where we hang out with artists, musicians, and entertainers in Brad Hill's old studio. Oh, that's weird. As always, I am gathered here with co-host Ryan Poole, who I'll pass it to introduce the guest.
Well, first off, I just want to say, I came up with that joke a month ago.
I know.
So you stole your joke in the very first 5 seconds of the podcast.
Well, I almost forgot to do it. I almost forgot. I had to
see.
catch myself. So I usually say in Waylon Jennings' old basement studio.
Oh, gotcha.
And I was like, oh no.
Just for the delivery of the joke, you were supposed to
Sorry,
keep
you want me to do the
talking
intro again?
through
Yeah,
it
I'll do the intro
and
again.
not call
Here you
attention
go.
to it.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Obadiah, and today we are back with another episode of Musical Hideout, the show where we hang out with artists, musicians, and entertainers in Brad Hill's old basement studio. As always, I'm gathered here with co-host Ryan Poole, who I'll pass it to introduce the guest.
And then in my mind, this is the part where you're like, oh, wait a minute. Do you guys say that every week?
So that was the correct. Okay, can we just rewind it? And
Hey, want to do intro number 3? Here we go. Okay. This is all live.
We've now lost everyone that was listening. Okay.
It's fine. You've ruined my great masterpiece moment. Yeah. So.
Oh, we're not doing it again?
No,
Okay.
we don't need to go. So
I'm gearing up.
Tonight, on a very special episode of Musical Hideout, we have Brad Hill, former owner of what I call the Hideout. What did you call this place?
Here's the funny part. I was here for 10 years with no name.
No
Literally
name?
Never had. Yeah.
Huh.
Formerly the Nothing Studio.
Yeah.
I had no name for 8 days as a baby, so maybe that was like a weird subconscious thing I brought into it.
So you're just like, names are bullshit anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
What's in a name?
He that has no name. That's my name. But yeah, we never had a name for 10 years down here. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So, Brad is a producer and engineer, originally from San Diego, California.
What?
Which we just found out tonight that we're both from the same area.
All of us are from
Yeah, all of us. Yeah.
Although apparently I'm not from San Diego.
No, you're from
that's-
North County. To be
Yeah.
fair, our last guest who was from San Diego was also from North County. Remember Alyssa?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was so much hatred towards North County from you guys. Man.
It's
He's
fine.
from the ghetto.
I grew up City Heights.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. So I
And
have to say no.
anything north of La Jolla is not San Diego. Anything south of the 94 is not San Diego.
But that's not even America.
Mexico. Yeah, that's Mexico. And anything east of La Mesa is not San Diego. It's East County.
What's
Yeah.
great is we are the geography podcast, and each week
We do talk about geography a lot on the
Yeah.
I
show.
love
San
geography.
Diego.
Quiz me. I know my California geography and like American geography. So
We all had to
go
take
for
that
it.
geography class in
Yeah.
third grade, right?
Yeah.
California geography.
Was that a class? I never had
I
that.
feel like I remember
California
that. California history, maybe?
Yeah.
Some
All the
bullshit.
missions and all that.
Yeah, you had to build a mission.
No, we did. Yes, I did. I went and saw my mission later on. It was La Purísima. It was up in kind of by Ventura or something up there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I think everyone in my school just did the San Diego mission. Everyone did the same one.
it was easy? It's,
Because
like,
it's
right
there.
there.
Yeah. But that's how it
To
is.
complete my intro, Brad has produced artists such as Maren Morris, the Brothers Osborne, and a whole bunch of others. I was planning on looking through your Discog and having a real slick intro,
And then he
I cut the
almost
shit out of
died.
my
Yeah, look at
finger.
his finger.
We almost.
He just wanted to flip.
He's just flipping us off all night.
He just wanted to low key flip me off the entire night. That's really why he did it.
You
This is
can get
my
another
studio now,
angle.
bitch.
Austin, you can
He's
probably
just
get another
sitting there like
angle on
this
this. Get
all
Brad's
night.
angle. Get all the cameras. So anyway, I was cleaning up the studio beforehand and jabbed my finger into a candle and cut it.
The glass that surrounds the candle, not the wax.
Correct. Yeah.
Very important distinction.
Yeah, and it's the deepest cut I've ever had in my life. It's bleeding in a pretty scary way.
Currently,
I
right
probably
now,
need
it's
stitches,
bleeding.
but I wanted to do the show, so we're gonna see how that goes. But we have
And you no longer
it.
can play keyboards ever again. That's
Yeah.
cool.
I really hope that's not
Your
true.
dream of being a professional pianist is over.
Yeah, and Austin, our intern, show intern. Should we have a name? We need a better name. Show director, creative.
Show bitch.
Show bitch. Our show
bitch.
Austin.
I think he's gonna be the finger now too.
It
but,
just helped me rewrap it, Dr. Austin. And so anyway, so he made it really beautiful, and thanks guys. Now I'm just totally fucking
Yeah,
If he
yeah,
starts
yeah,
getting
yeah.
pale on
purpose.
air, we're gonna have to pause, but he'll be okay. Hopefully.
right.
I actually cut my finger really bad right before I went to Belmont, which is what brought me out here 17 years ago. Right
worked
before my senior recital, 4 days beforehand, I was a guitar major. Sliced my entire ring finger on my left hand, right through the side of it, and I was like, "Oh shit, what do I do?" So my teacher was like, "Dude, just tape it up and glue it." And so that's what I did, and I got through I was bleeding all over my guitar on my recital.
Wow.
That's badass, though.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. That's metal as shit.
Yeah, it was just kind of cool.
I weirdly have the same story. I cut my
Weird.
finger real bad when I was late high school, 16, and my band was supposed to go into the studio the next day to record 3 singles. And I played drums, and so I had to go I got stitches that
Ow.
night and went the next day, and I
So
played
stitches for
drums.
rubbing
How'd you
against
cut it?
that?
What happened?
Oh, how? Dude, we were just dumb kids, and like we're playing this game. You know how when you're a kid you make up a game on accident? It's not even a game. Like I was just holding this piece of string, and my buddy had scissors, and he just like cut the string in half, and then I picked up that half, and he cut it in half, and eventually
You keep going until it's like so small.
yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
cut his
You must have
finger.
had a really like interesting childhood. Like,
Yeah, we're just bored.
yeah, we had string and scissors. That's all we had.
Yeah, that's all we had back in my day.
You poor child.
And so he cut the top of my thumb off. And
Oh.
so,
Yeah, seriously.
yeah. And so,
Do you still have a
anyway,
scar from it?
It's just a subtle discoloration. Like you wouldn't even be able to see. My hands are all dirty because they're
It's like
covered
you
in blood.
circumcised your thumb, basically.
He did. He circumcised my thumb. And so I played drums the next day, and they literally, the stitches were like bleeding, like blood was coming out of my stitches.
All over the
But I
drums?
felt like a badass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously.
totally.
You gotta feel like a badass.
So
I
I'm
remember
with
I
you.
had guitar stains. I had blood stains on my guitar for like years after that. I kind of just left them. I was like, it's kind of a cool thing, you know?
It is a cool thing. That's badass. I've never bled on instruments.
I think Jimi
Sorry.
Hendrix has bled playing guitar, right?
Yeah, Jack White has.
Oh, for
From like
sure.
actually
Yeah.
just from his like fingers bleeding from playing so much.
I guess.
Well, you know, he
I
like
watched,
purposely buys guitars that are like
shitty.
shitty
Right, it's like one of
because he
his
likes to
things.
fight the guitar.
Yeah. Did you see the documentary?
So-
It Might Get Loud.
No.
It's
Is it good?
It's really good. Yeah, it's amazing. It's Jack White, Jimmy Page, and The Edge.
Yeah, I think
They
I heard
stick 'em
about
all in
it.
a room and they
I've-
just, like, talk about
I've heard
guitar.
about it. Maybe even saw it on Netflix or
Yeah.
something and didn't watch it. But yeah,
But in that, there's a clip of the White Stripes, or
Yeah.
what's his other band? Jack White, the
The Raconteurs.
Raconteurs.
oh yeah.
Playing on stage is like bleeding all over it.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, oh my god, it's so cool.
Doesn't he have to do that thing here where you go in and record like a whole album like to vinyl? Have you guys heard
Yeah.
about that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Seems cool.
That's cool.
He has like a record like pressing thing there in his studio, and you track it all like straight live to the vinyl.
That's rad.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely have one that's like in the tourist area. Like if you just go to the studio and visit, you can pay $20
And, like, make
do
your
it.
own, like, thing,
Right.
yeah.
Do like a
But it's
karaoke
just
song.
like some built-in microphone. You know, it's like crap quality, but it's kind of cool. It sounds super.
Hey, you take
super
home a
cool.
vinyl of you singing? That's,
Yeah, a
that's,
little
that's that's a
45.
great souvenir.
There's a whole like tourism like studio industry now in this town. It's crazy. Like there's
That's
that the
wild.
company that like takes people through studios, and you get like free session time as long as you're cool with like people like watching you, like you're a guinea pig. So
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you want like free studio time workout stuff, it's cool. But I wouldn't feel like you could make a great creative record with like people like looking through the
Everyone's
glass.
staring
like,
at you,
Hey, honey, look!
snapping
look,
pictures.
Look at the musicians. Like,
Yeah.
Kids knocking on the glass.
Yeah,
Like you're in
exactly.
the zoo.
Now, if you look there, you can see that what the players are currently experiencing is the vibe.
oh, they just saw us. Now the vibe is gone.
Yeah, it's over.
The vibe is a cute little bird. It's scared.
But what are we drinking tonight?
Oh, we are drinking.
we're
are we
supposed to do
sponsored by Bullet or something?
No, I
If we
wish.
are,
No,
then
we just
we are drinking Bullet.
Though Bullet,
Bullet
if
logo
you are
comes up.
listening,
Yeah, exactly.
Bullet, we are open to a
You're not opposed
sponsorship.
to it.
Yeah, just throwing that out there. We drink it a lot already, anyways.
We actually have Bullet whiskey glasses. Too, which
Yeah,
is cool.
we do. That was just a happy coincidence. But so we kind of start every show kind of the same way, which is by doing a lot of nonsense first before we get to our actual question, which is how did you just get into music to begin with? I mean, obviously you've been doing it a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was always kind of in bands growing up. I was in some really bad bands in high school,
Classic.
like we
San
all
Diego
were.
bands.
You know? Yeah. Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
were you in any of
like,
that,
my
like-
first band was called the Pinheads. If you remember Back to the Future, like the very
Yeah.
first scene, Marty McFly's band is playing, and they audition, and the guy says, "Sorry, but you're just too damn loud." Like that's what like the auditioner tells him, and so
Yeah.
he gets pissed off. Anyways, they're the Pinheads, and so that was our band name.
Okay.
We had a good drummer, and I was not the drummer, but we had a good drummer, and that was about it. I was a shitty guitar player pretty much at that point. Our singer was all right. The whole band was kind of whatever. So that was my band in high school. Then I was in a Christian ska band.
Oh,
That was a
classic
big
Christian
thing at the
ska
time.
band.
Oh,
Yeah, that
yeah.
was massive for like a day.
Wait.
You remember like the
Let
late
me make some
90s?
guesses. Was it out of Horizon?
Oh, for the church?
Yeah.
No. We were just kind of friends. We went to a non-denominational church in Carlsbad, but we were all just kind of friends through music, and that was the thing to do. So we had a fallen horn section. We had like,
Oh, wow.
I think we had 2
What
trumpets.
year is this around?
This would have been 98 through 2000.
It was a good time for ska.
Yeah, I mean it was like Supertones,
And that was
like
the
Prime.
only time.
You know, yeah, exactly. That was the only time
was
ska
it.
was ever cool. when the Boss Tones were around. So that was
oh,
fun.
yeah.
We were, and
No
the
doubt.
name was the best part. You guys ready for this? This is
Yeah.
like
yeah.
this is everything. Scallelujah.
Yep.
Wow.
So
Yep.
cringy.
Yep.
But that's so, I love that. I love that. I love it so
with,
much.
with the Christian fish was like the A, and like the little
Oh,
like fish
no.
thing was the Christian fish. Like, yep.
Wow.
It was like everything.
Hallelujah.
So yeah, so that was my high school experience. So I was always in bands, and I was always the guy recording our music. You know, like just as soon as I could get like, I forget what my first program was that I had on my computer, like in 2000. But I was always just into like recording music when I could. But it was always more of just a hobby. And then moved out here to go to Belmont. And
Forgot to set the timer.
oh.
No, we're good. The camera times out after 30 minutes
Oh,
if we don't
gotcha.
press a button.
Cool.
So we
It's
just have to
still
press a
going.
button.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're still good.
So, anyways, yeah, I came out here to transfer to Belmont, started at UCLA, and came out here, and then just started producing friends of mine.
I think
we good?
you hit the wrong button, Ryan.
I hit the wrong button.
Did you half shutter it? Hit the back button. They can still hear us, but they can't see us.
the back button?
Yes, hit it once.
It would have been amazing if
Now we're good. Okay.
it would have been amazing if it came back on and we were all in like different outfits. Like, somehow, exactly. Like that would have been so sneaky. That would have been like, what just happened?
I have a timer now, so we can hit the right button.
I like that. Or maybe we forget next time and do the outfit thing. I like that idea.
Yeah,
We're gonna be
I
pretty
think
quick.
if you don't do it this time, because now they've heard about it, you should at least do it a different time.
Right.
Like rehearse it and get it down, so it's like just boom, no one says anything. Switch places, put on like, yeah, be great.
Scallelujah.
So yeah, Scallelujah. That was my Scallelujah. Get it right. We
Jesus.
actually almost got sued by another Christian ska band that
What?
that had an album called Scallelujah or something. They were bigger than us, and so they tried to like sue us and say that we couldn't be named that.
Classic
Yeah,
San Diego shit.
exactly.
Nonsense.
We got a letter from
Like
we
Blink.
got
What
some
happened?
cease and desist letter, and so yeah, it was.
Did you
Blink.
did you
Total
cease
bullshit.
and
We got a
desist?
cease and desist letter from like someone.
Wait,
in
Blink did?
Norway. Yeah.
Norway.
You know, we all call them Blink, but to the world they're known as Blink 182.
Yeah.
Because the name Blink was already taken by some band in Europe. And so they got a cease and desist letter. So
I
they
didn't know
switched
this.
to Blink 182.
So the 182 was added because
didn't
of that
know
letter.
that.
See,
That's-
we changed our name to the one and only Scallelujah. Like just
Really?
yeah, literally.
One and only. You're like, fuck those guys.
Yeah, we should have been Scully 182. That would have been much better. Would have been much better.
Or
luck for
181.
us.
You just show 'em up a
181.
little bit.
Yeah, and found some like verse that's like it's actually like verse
Yeah.
181.
This is from Romans
Yeah.
18:1. It really means a lot to us.
I can see the whole thing. We had a whole little like thing. Yeah. Anyways, I did not know that about Blink though. That's cool.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
I was a big punk fan actually. So after that,
Same.
Yeah,
I was in some
obviously.
punk bands. Like I was into like really fast punk, like all like the I don't know, like Fat Records kind of stuff, like Lagwagon and Strung Out, No Effects.
Just like Pennywise.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Brohim or whatever was that song? Yeah,
I forget.
that was one of their big
I
songs.
remember, like,
I saw them play San
Pennywise-
Diego once.
I start my like number one Pennywise memory is like from being at Family Fun Center. And, like, playing on the.
Can you rotate that camera a little? I think you bumped it on the way.
Oh, there's a camera
Just-
there.
yeah,
I didn't know there was a
towards
camera
him,
there.
towards
That's
him.
the Brad cam.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's just
What's
for
up?
when they just want to see just your face. Point it right at his face. Turn it. Yeah, there you go. Much better.
Good enough.
Cool.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, the
Yeah,
skateboarding
Pennywise.
game they used to have there, like where you like you're on a skateboard and you like
Mm-hmm.
move back and forth. They had some Pennywise song that like I know I love, but I don't remember.
Like
it all.
like the clown,
It is
Pennywise, like the
that's
clown
what
from
they're named
It. That's what it's named after.
Oh, was it? Yeah, I guess it was, but I
Huh.
never knew that growing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were good. I loved just like I loved the not so like Blink was as poppy as I got, like punk wise.
I love Blake.
But yeah, they were good.
It helped
I
that they
just
were
like
San
stuff that
Diego.
had more like metal like guitars, like really
Sure.
intricate guitar lines and like real crazy.
Not
drums.
just
How can
power
you go from
chords
San Diego
to here.
pop punk to Nashville. country?
I know, right?
I mean, practically the same thing.
Same thing, pretty much. I mean, I use those same chord voicings all the time. Yeah, so coming out here, I honestly didn't even know who Garth Brooks was when I moved here. Like, I will admit that on a podcast. But
I'm sorry,
yeah,
who?
yeah. I was so like not into country growing up at all. My grandpa would listen to it occasionally. That was it. So, I was always into just more rock and all that kind of stuff. Just I loved real instruments. I loved drums, guitars. Like that's what I grew up playing and liking. So, after college, I started producing and was mainly producing just whatever the genre was that I could get work with at the time. A lot of kind of like independent, pop rock stuff, whatever, alt country. And then just kind of over the years, just found myself doing more country, just being in this town, and then getting into the songwriting. Like I don't write, but just I really got into like the art of the songwriting and just you know meeting people that were songwriters and like respecting that whole genre, and it kind of drew me into that. And so, and then I think as kind of rock started dying, you know, like that's not really even like a big genre anymore. And pop went, I know, and pop went so EDM and electronic, and that really wasn't my thing. I kind of like found a niche in country because you could still have organic instruments and stuff that I liked, and that kind of became country. So that was kind of how I kind of came in the back door of it.
Yeah, I remember because I was never into country growing up at all.
Yeah.
In fact, when people ask what kind of music I like, I'd be like, anything but country.
Oh yeah, that was like it was always like
phrase,
anything
right?
but rap or country. Which
Right.
nowadays you ask a girl's 18 what do you listen to, it's like rap and country. Like it's
Right. It's
literally
completely
shifted
different vibe.
180.
Yes.
But I remember.
The combination, which remember back in
Yeah.
college, it was always
Oh, well, that's new.
one
That's
day,
real new.
Country and rap are gonna come together, and it's gonna be crap.
Like, that was like the
gross.
biggest song this year was that
Yeah.
whatever the
Old Town Road. Right.
Yeah.
But there was some
We
before.
talked
Wasn't
about
there
it
one
lot
come out a
on
few
this
years
show.
ago that
Is
was
it
like that?
country or not? We don't need to go there. It's not fun.
What was the consensus? Like
There is
50-50?
no consensus.
The consensus
It depends
is
I have one friend that
You know.
that is like adamantly against it. Yeah, and then I have a few friends that are just like whatever. We have room for it all. So
I just like am not into country enough to like.
to really care.
Yeah, I'm like. I
Yeah.
grew up listening to a lot of rap. I never listened to country at all until I moved here, except for when we were in a band together. We covered a couple like Rascal Flatts songs.
Okay.
And so that was what in my mind I listened to it. I was like, oh, this is country is just rock music with a twang. Like
Yeah.
that's all I thought it was.
I mean, yeah. Especially the bro
Which
country
it is
thing.
now.
Like when I first kind of got into it, that's when bro country was getting really big, and so I could do big guitars and drums all day long. I mean, That's
Right.
what I always loved
It's like
doing.
making
And
rock.
so people in the country,
Country.
nothing that I was kind of too new to make any like waves with the stuff I did at that point. I mean, I did a lot of demos for people that ended up being big songs, but I didn't produce any bro country that like turned into anything. But yeah, I mean, I loved doing that stuff, just big rock guitars, and you can't ever go wrong with like power chords and like big drums in my book, you know.
For sure.
So,
So what was the first thing you did that made waves that like started changing things for you in your career?
it's probably Hallelujah. That was
that was the ticket right
yeah,
there.
That really opened so many doors for me. The first thing I would say, I mean, yeah, probably Brothers Osborne was probably the first like thing that started kind of, because I'd been friends with him. I met John, the guy with the beard, the guitar player. I was also at Belmont with him, so we were both guitar majors. He was actually good, and he was
He's incredible.
he's incredible. Yeah, so he and I met there. And I think the first country project I produced was a buddy of mine. This would have been like in 04, something like that, 05. And I usually always play guitars and stuff I would produce. That's just what I did. But this thing was pretty twangy country. And so my buddy was like, dude, we need to get like a real country guy in this to play it. So I was like, oh, I know this guy John from school. Let's
Kind
get
of
him
an insulting way to be like, you blow at this.
no, but I mean, yeah, basically he was just like, you're not going to cut it. And I
Yeah.
knew it too. I mean, he wanted like real like chicken picking stuff. And so I just like thought, well, maybe we should call John Osborne. So I called him up and he was like, sure, I'll come. We probably paid him like $100 for the full record, you know, and he played his ass off. Like, I still have that record and it sounds great. So that one record, I was just like, wow, okay, I'm no longer ever pretending to play guitar on country stuff ever again. So I started hiring John for all my country stuff after that. So he and I worked together for years, just like as he was my session player for stuff all the time. Then I got this gig for this song factory, basically is what I would call it, where they basically got they got songs from all over the world and that needed demos on them, and so they would hire out, they would contract out. I think they had like 16 producers at one point in town.
Oh my gosh!
And they would send you a batch of songs each week or every 2 weeks, and you would turn them around, and then they would just pay you. So I would do 12 songs every 2 weeks for them.
It was a song
So
factory.
that was
straight
my
up. Holy
first
crap.
gig outside of college. I was like 23. Started doing that, and I was doing 12 songs every 2 weeks. I did 450 songs for him, and John played every single one of those. I'm outing him right now on this, so you probably. I mean, whatever. It's a joke, but
He listens to every episode. It's
But
cool.
no.
A lot of like
But he-
random writers in like Kansas that sent in their song to the song factory.
Yes.
They didn't know that they had
and Brothers
songs
Osborne
on
literally.
the
So
song.
one guy somehow found out about it like years later, because this would have been like
That's wild.
this was like 05 to 07. I finished. I had just moved into the studio when I finished doing those. And so yeah, he played in all 450 of those songs, and like his guitar solos. I mean, if you go and listen to them, they're the most ridiculously awful songs, but it's like it still sounds like John.
He's just
you know? He was
ripping
as
it.
good as any. Yeah, and he's playing these amazing solos on them. And so I got really busy. They loved me there, so that was my like ticket into being, you know, an independent producer because I was able to just to do that on the side and then like start producing other people with my other time. And then when I finally got enough clients built up, then I finally ditched that thing. But some of the songs we've thought about having like a reunion show, getting the old band back together that did it all, and like playing like the top 10 because there were so many good ones. I mean, there was a song called Katrina, and it was like 7 minutes long. It had like 6 verses, and it was about Hurricane Katrina. And it was about this guy like losing his wife. Like, and I'm sure it was probably not true. Maybe it was. Like, hopefully it wasn't. But
right.
Yeah, and like it almost sounded like a Will Ferrell sketch. Like the demo he sent in.
No.
Imagine like Will Ferrell on SNL like pretending to sing a song about Katrina. That's what it sounded like. And we had to sit there and like record the whole thing.
7 minutes
and
long.
then I had to hire a singer, and they would oftentimes put on there. They put like no changes, and that meant you could not change any lyrics. You had to sing it word for word how they like wrote it. So that was like one of the bad ones. We had an Asian guy, I think he was Japanese, that liked to do songs. We did probably the 4 or 5 for him, and they sounded it was like Japanese country. Like the melodies had these little flips in them that were very Asian sounding, and his grammar was like atrocious. But he would write no changes, so we had to sing like incorrect grammar.
Oh, no.
One of them was like, you don't have to be country. You don't have to be something to be a country rodeo superstar. Like that was like the
Contrio?
yeah. It was so weird. Like it was super incorrect, but we had to sing it word for word. So that taught me very quickly how to like pump stuff out quickly and just get it done and just like move on and not obsess over every detail. Because I was always before that I would take months on every song and like get really into it, which is good. But it was also bad if you want to like make a living and do more than like 5 songs a year. So that gig was good just to kind of like learn how to be quick. And then I met John and really became like good buddies with him through that. So then when they started their duo, probably in 08, something like that, he already kind of knew what I did, and we had already like, worked together so much that he's like, hey, can you do our demos?
Yeah.
So I started doing this is when they were called Captain Kid first. And so I started doing all their demos as Captain Kid, and then they started getting buzzed around, and then they changed their name to Brothers Osborne. They signed, and then I did their first EP and some songs on their first record. And so, so that one, like saying yes to that one crappy gig for those couple years, like it was directly the reason I got that Brothers Osborne gig. So it's just, that's one of the things I took away from it is like, just, you never know what the future is going to hold. So be cool to everybody, no matter how bad the music is at the time. So yeah, I would say that was like the first thing I did that people in town started going like, oh, this is really cool. Or, they started taking notice of it, I guess. And then I met Maren through them. They had written a song. Lucy Silvas, I'm not sure if you guys know her, but she's a kind of a Americana. She's British, lives here in town. She's married to John Osborne, married to the guy from Brothers Osborne. And she's an incredible singer, incredible voice, plays piano. She's just really talented. So I worked with her before, and so John and her had written a song with this girl Maren who had just moved to town. And so they said, hey, can you do a demo of this song that we wrote? And so I said, sure. So they came in, and I was expecting Lucy to sing it because Lucy was like such a good singer, and they were like, no, we want Maren to sing it. So I was like, okay, she must be good if like you're not singing this demo for some reason. And she sang it, and I was just like, oh dang, like, yeah, this girl's got an amazing voice, and it was just unique. It was special. That was here. And
it all happened here.
Yeah.
Discovered here.
So yeah,
in the Hideout,
I remember
or the no name.
I remember sitting right there, and she walked in, and she's super tiny, and I was just like, okay, who is this girl? And she has a cool name, so you remember her name from 2 seconds, anyways. And
Birth name? Maren?
yeah, it's not a stage name or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard that before.
And so, I remember just falling in love with her voice immediately and just being like, there's something different about this girl, And so then she had just moved to town at that point. She had just signed her publishing deal. So then she kind of had heard my stuff through that one song, and then she was going to put together a demo session with her publisher, and so she said, I want Brad to do it. And so she came over here, and we did her first demo session in Nashville. Those songs are awesome. I still have all those. It was her and Natalie Hemby did like 3 of them. And they're great songs. And so then, so we started working together, and we did, 20 or 30 demos over the course of the next couple of years. And then her publisher said, we want to like do some like glorified demos, like as if they're masters, just to try to go shop her and get a deal. So then we did, and that's when we did Drunk Girls Don't Cry, Company You Keep, and I Wish I Was. And all 3 of those are on Hero. And then at that same time, she wrote My Church and A's Mercedes, which were like her 2 first singles. So all that kind of happened at the same time, and then everything kind of just from there was just, lights out for her. So it was just huge from then on. So, yeah. but all that stuff was done here initially, all the vocals and on that stuff.
I know we have history. I know
Yep.
we had history.
And then
Yeah, which actually we have a lot of questions about the history.
and then the song that she got nominated for a Grammy as well was done with Vince Gill. We did that whole song here. It was called Dear Hate. So yeah, like it was just her and Vince Gill and Ian Fitchuk and then my friend Lee Holland. So all of them, and we just did it all like almost live that day, basically.
Is Lee Holland somehow related to Bobby Holland?
Nope. I do know Bobby Holland, but they're not related. Lee Holland's an amazing guitar player, drummer, producer in town. Worked with for a long time. But
Okay, cool.
yeah, so he came in and played acoustic on it, and Vince played the other acoustic part. So it's just like stereo acoustics, and then Ian doing everything else that he does.
So our kind of introduction, both of us actually got introduced to Maren Morris at the same moment. Because 2 years ago, we had a friend who was up for a Grammy, so we watched.
Mm-hmm.
Which was like, I don't know. I don't usually.
I've
watch
never
award
watched
shows.
any award
Yeah.
shows live in my
No,
life.
honestly,
yeah.
I haven't watched many of them. So
Yeah.
So we watched, and that they had the Target commercial,
oh yeah,
Yeah,
and
they
in the middle.
debuted the middle,
Mhm.
right?
and was like, "This is a really cool song," and then I think I'd heard the name Maren Morris.
Yeah, because it's easy to remember when you hear it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
It's like,
You're like, oh, that's who that is.
That name, and then I did, oh yeah, exactly. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And it's weird that song. I don't know. Did you have anything to do with that song?
No, that was all Zed.
That was
Mhm.
later on,
That's
yeah.
like his formula. Like if you look at that song and Stay,
Right, they're the same
they're the
fucking
same
song,
song, and I
except
love
the
them both though.
middle's better.
I love them. I love them both.
I don't think I've listened
like-
to the other one.
I'm like,
Oh, you definitely heard it.
Have I? I just thought it was the same one.
It has a little clock thing right in the drop right before the chorus.
I just want everyone to know I used a clock sound as like that 6 years ago. So fuck you.
Just kidding, Zed. If you want to come on the show,
Anytime, you're the best.
Yeah,
No,
sure.
but It
Bullet.
was funny. I heard that. I'm like, it sounds familiar, and then I heard "Stay."
Yeah,
I was
and you're like, oh, is the vocoder
same
on the
thing. Yeah,
post chorus? It's literally the exact same song. And
except in my opinion, the middle is a better song.
see that's funny. It's hard for me with her and that kind of stuff to gauge that stuff because like for me, I liked Stay better. But because I think like knowing her and then hearing the song, it was like such a
It connected
it's
better.
just hard. Yeah, it's hard to ever like remove yourself from that. Like, I always loved Stay, and that I heard that first. It was before the middle. And I loved it before the middle was out. So when I heard the middle, I was kind of like, oh, okay, he's kind of getting formula at this point, you know.
Yeah.
But
Formula makes money.
but
though.
no, it was awesome. I love the middle. It was great, but it was
Yeah,
just
it's
the
an awesome
production
song.
of it. The production was very similar to Stay, I thought. So,
Huh.
but he made her vocal like that vocal on that song. She sounds so freaking good. I mean, I think that's one of her best vocals I've ever heard. So, and I wouldn't expect that. Like, I don't know, for some reason, I feel like I don't know. I would have judged. I would have been like, oh, like he's probably a great track guy and all that, but the vocal is going to be like mediocre or something, you know. But like
Yeah.
that vocal is so good.
Yeah.
But talented dude.
Now now you were in here in this studio for 10 years. You said 10
Yeah.
years. Now we talked a lot about the history of this studio, but we don't actually know much. But what we know is, well, I'll let you explain it. You know more than me.
Max has told
Yeah,
me and what you told me. So
not a lot.
right.
Yeah.
I came here 2 years ago, and Max the landlord, for those who don't know Max, told me this was Waylon Jennings' old studio, office, whatever, and he showed me different things, like, oh, here they did this and that, and kind of, and the story goes that back in the day, Waylon got fed up with the label and had a problem with them, and so he's like, fuck you, I'm starting my own thing, and he just wanted his own place. And so that was kind of the story I was given
From Max or
from Max.
okay.
And then I tried to learn more about it, so I would go online, and Waylon had an office right down the street, 11117. Wait, 111.7. 1117. However you say that.
Sure.
Yeah, 1117. That's right.
Yeah,
1117,
1117.
yeah.
You got it. You got it.
17th Avenue was his well-known office. And it's like very Googleable. This place isn't Googleable.
Yeah. Well, because it's not commercially. Oh, I can say that it's not commercially zoned. So
Yeah.
Although,
According to Comcast, it is.
But anyway,
Oh, really?
They won't let him get. Yeah, they won't
we
let him
have
get
to learn
regular
more about
internet.
that.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
That's for a
later.
different podcast.
Yeah, I don't need that expensive
Yeah.
internet. So anyway,
So we kind of want to know, like, do
Yeah.
you know more than that? Because we just kind of we don't know. Like,
Yeah, I mean, so when I moved in here, there was a lady named Nikki. I don't remember her last name.
I
She
found out on Google.
So she was working upstairs. So there was no like frat house upstairs, which now that's what's up above us.
Yeah, which is a nightmare.
Yeah,
That's an absolute nightmare.
it is. So when I moved in, there was the staircase that's there was still connected, so you could just walk right upstairs. There were 3 offices upstairs. There was Nikki's office. She had the entire whole front room, the whole side of the house. And she had been, I guess, Waylon's like personal assistant for like 20 years or something. Like when he was still alive, like he was almost like part of her family. They weren't related, but they were very close. Right. She kind of ran all of his personal affairs, just money, all that stuff for years she had. And then once he died, she still like managed his estate, I guess, and all that. So all of his stuff was managed out of this house. She was an amazing person. She was a pilot. She actually flew, I'm pretty sure, around the world. I think she was like one of the first women to ever like do that. Like she flew like a solo aircraft like around the world. So she was really cool. And the whole place was like kept up really well, super pretty. There was flowers everywhere. She had this really cool old like Airstream in the back that she restored. This is like before that was even like trendy. You know, this is in like 07. And so she was a really cool lady, and she actually died of cancer about, I don't know, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. So she's not here anymore. But so she was a connection that I knew of from the house to Waylon. But as far as I knew, and not to like burst your pipe dreams,
Son of a bitch.
There was no actual. From what I knew, there was no actual connection from Waylon to the house. I don't think. So there might have been some kind of thing before he died briefly, but I don't. The studio was built by a Canadian guy. The guy that owned it, named Peter, who was the guy that owned it when I first moved in. Before
we need
Max.
to change
Peter
our
Leggett,
intro.
yes.
In every
So
intro, I've
if
said
you
Waylon
look-
Jennings' old basement studio.
So if you look inside the, there's like a Canadian like coin inside the window.
Yeah.
So I guess that's like one way of seeing how old the studio is and that he's Canadian. So he's one that built. So Waylon did not build the studio, and as far as I know, he never recorded anything down here.
Yeah.
He did have a jacket that Johnny Cash had given him. So the back room that's really big.
Yeah.
That when I first moved in here was actually not even part of the studio. It was kind of like managed by the person upstairs, by Nikki. So we couldn't go back there or do anything with it. It was a bunch of storage stuff, and that jacket was back there, and a bunch of his old gold records were back there. It was really cool. So there was a bunch of like Waylon stuff here, and I think there's a few guitars in there too that were his, that were given to him by different people with all these cool signatures on it. So there was definitely history here, but like it wasn't really
a studio.
his thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Max kind of took that and like ran with it
to make some money.
Yeah,
for sure.
So
Now we heard that he actually that he owned the house at some point, right? Was that a thing that you had heard?
He did.
He did own the house, but he just didn't do anything.
Maybe he owned it
he just didn't do
when
anything
Nikki
here.
first before
Yeah,
Peter
he-
owned it.
he
Maybe.
owned the house, yeah.
So was it before
Well, it's
Peter?
public record. Like,
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
go
because
to
you can
the
see
record,
who
Yeah,
owns a
yeah.
house.
Peter Liggett and all that. So he owned it. So what we know is, so this is because, so the whole time we've had the podcast, I talked to you. So the funny thing is, I was at ML Rose, because this isn't new info to me.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
I was at ML Rose having drinks with a friend plus his new friend, because they were going to coding school together. And I forget that guy's name, but anyway, like we were talking about what we do, and I showed him some pictures of the studio, and he's like, I've been there before. I like, did a session there before. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, it was owned by this guy named Brad Hill. And I was like, really? Do you have his like contact information? Like, I would love to talk to him and like find out what this is all about,
Yeah.
right? And learn more. And so he gave me your number, and I called her Instagram or something, and somehow we got into
Yeah, I remember getting that message, and I was like, "Oh, this is so crazy."
Yeah, it was so random. Like, because I wondered for a long time, like, I wanted to talk to whoever was here.
Yeah, you want to know like just the
You wanna know
story
the
of
history.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
There was like no way to find out, and so it was like a total chance Nashville encounter. That
I love that. Yeah, and randomly you're at Emma Rose, which is yeah.
Yeah, and so you kind of told me what you just said, and so, but Waylon Jennings did own the house.
Check.
This is his former basement. Whether or not he hung out or not, and
That's all. Yeah, he made it, and it's a studio.
So it is Waylon Jennings' former basement.
So we're not
Studio. Yeah, that's not.
so we're not
that's not really a
liars.
lie.
Now that's provable public record. What we don't know is if you don't know something. That's the last.
If you
thing.
don't,
Maybe
you mean
Is
something.
it possible you don't know?
Well, I definitely know that the studio was built by a Canadian. That Waylon did not build the studio. Like I know that for sure.
And were we sure Waylon wasn't Canadian?
Because
We're
I knew, because I knew Peter. I wish I used to know his like secretary, and I used to have her number.
Yeah, she'd be the one
I
to
wish
watch it.
there might be a way I could still, because the guy that I kind of took it over from was named Addison Gore. He was like he did kids music, so he was here for about 3 years before me. So probably, I guess, 04 or something like that to 07. He did kids music, and he knew Peter somehow. And I think I could probably get their information, either Peter or his secretaries, from Addison. So we could probably track it down.
Yeah, it's like, how deep are we going with this? How deep?
We're gonna have Peter on the show.
Yeah, he's coming.
We should. Peter gave a shit more than Max, because he, I think, lived here at one point, like years ago. So he was a little more like on it in terms of like fixing stuff up. I remember when he sold the house, because I was already here, and he sold it about 2 or 3 years after I had put a lot of work into the studio. So at that point, and so when he told me he was selling it, I was pretty worried because I was like, man, like the new person could kick me out. Who knows?
Right.
So he gave me a chance to buy it. He was just like, hey, this is how much I'm selling it for. Take
Was
a
it
guess.
a great deal? Oh no!
Why didn't you buy it?
Oh no!
It was, I remember something
Like
around
200 grand?
260.
Oh no!
You fucking fool.
260.
You have to look, and
I didn't have the money.
you didn't have
And
the money.
Rude.
I wouldn't have had the money.
No.
260.
But at that point, dude, you didn't know what the market was gonna do.
I know.
Yeah. How much is his house
Do you
worth
know
now?
It's valued on Zillow,
Right now, I would guess 850.
900.
Yeah.
But that's Zillow, which
Yeah.
everybody
knows?
says Zillow's wrong, so who knows what's
Who
But
knows what
screw
it'll go-
that. Do you know what
it's-
he's renting the upstairs for?
Is it like 30 something, 3600,
55.
5500?
Yeah.
Woo. So I paid $500 a month for this studio when I
Oh
first came
shit.
in.
Yeah. It's a little more than that
Oh,
now.
I know. Everything in Nashville has, but
We'll talk
I
about that.
don't have to. I'm just saying I only paid $500, which is
It's
ridiculous
more now.
on Music Row, for like a big studio. It was, but that was the only way I could do it. I mean, I was young and broke, so.
Yeah.
$500 for this big studio is a great deal.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's
I
ridiculous.
remember.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
It's got 2 studios, a lounge.
No, I know it has so much. Yeah, it has so
Yeah.
many rooms. I mean, it's people always come in. They're like, "Wait, there's more," and they like, "Oh, wait, there's more." Yeah.
Man.
So yeah,
260.
I had a lot of good times in the studio though. I made so many records.
Why didn't you buy it though?
Honestly, I think
I wouldn't.
so.
Yeah, like-
Honestly, the main thing was just it needed so much work, and it still does need so much work upstairs. That just the thought, like I was like, dude, you could buy it and then put easily that much back into it. Just trying to get
Sure.
it to like up to standards.
Yeah.
'cause
Though with hindsight, we know that would have definitely been worth
it still
it.
would have paid off for sure. But at the time, and it was
Yeah, you
huge,
would
and I
never
didn't
know
need
what
all
it
that
was.
room.
It was like 2007.
Something like that. 8, 7,
Somewhere around
8. I
there.
don't know.
Yeah. Because I've seen the records of when it was sold.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
I forget. Or maybe it was 9. Maybe it was 2009. Because I think it was around the time, like during the like when everything had crashed. Because Max came and bought up, like I think he owns like a lot of stuff on this whole area, like on
I've looked at
on
his
Villa.
website.
yeah.
It's a
So
lot of stuff.
I think he came in at the right time and knew what he was doing.
Man. So
Yep.
so in comparison to how it was pre Max to now,
How has it changed?
yeah.
Well,
or just pre. I mean, I guess just you here to
so
now too. It was very-
I loved the space. My big issue was always the water because it flooded twice on me.
only twice.
Yeah, only
Oh
twice.
wow.
Well,
no big deal.
4 times
Well,
on me.
when I say twice, I mean full studio floods. The back, like it came in there, 7, 8 times probably, like just a little bit. But I'm talking where the whole place flooded twice. Is it done more than that to you already? Like more than twice?
Yes.
In
Where
2
the
years.
whole place flooded?
Well, so like the other multiple rooms flooded, but they didn't flood all the way. The whole place flooded where everything flooded.
That one time that you sent me that video.
Yeah, I sent you a video and I was
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm leaving.
So I had 2 of those, like where the whole thing flooded like that. I had one a year after I moved here. It was I guess it would have been a couple years, 2 years after. It was a 2010 flood. So that was the big one in Nashville where everyone
Right.
got wiped out.
Yeah, everyone
And
got flooded. That's
I'll always
expected,
remember
right?
that weekend. It was because I knew that there could be issues. It had never flooded before that, but I remember the owner Peter had always said like, clean the drains out. This place can flood. It had flooded with him because I knew like the boards that used to be here. There were like wooden boards everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You could see there were like water stains on them. So I knew there was a way it could flood. So I was always a little like cautious.
Mm-hmm.
And so exactly we should. So that flood happened, and I remember coming down the steps. I always remember that Sunday morning. It had been raining nonstop for like 2 days. And I'd been here that Saturday just to check, and everything was fine. And I was like, okay, it's going to be okay. go home. It kept raining all night long Sunday, and I was like this, and like pouring like all night, and I was just like, I don't know. So I came like first thing Sunday morning. I remember walking down the steps, and I could see like 3 inches of water just in that stairwell, and you see water there, and you know you're screwed. Yeah. And I was just like, oh no. And I remember just walking in, I was like in shock. And I remember all the lights were off, and you could just hear water, and you could just see. And I remember I saw my guitar just floating, like just literally sitting there and floating right there in the water. And I was like, I was in shock, and I started like trying to go. And I remember seeing all my power strips were underwater, and the red lights were still on the power strips.
Not a great sign.
But I was kind of so much in shock that I didn't think, and I just started going down to turn the power strips off, and I kept getting shocked. Like literally,
I did that too.
I would put my hand in, and I was like,
Do you not understand that electricity passes through water?
You're not thinking clearly in these situations, probably, and you're just like so.
You're trying to get the
and you don't want all your gear to be fried and stuff. So I was just trying to turn this.
So rough.
I didn't even think.
Not surprised like how little you got shocked though. Like
yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Like you didn't die.
It felt like one of those like games that you kind of get shocked, but yeah, it was just kind of like
yeah, exactly. It's very minor.
Like one of those electric fly swatters.
Shocked. Yeah. So then and I remember just being like, what am I gonna do? I was just so like freaked out. And my friends came, we got all the water out, and then it was about a month, because that was when it was carpeted over there, and then there were wood floors in here, and so it was
just
such
cement.
Which is the way it probably should be. Well, I mean, it's.
Yeah,
I guess it looks a little industrial.
They just painted over the cement.
Yeah, but at least that way, if it floods, it's like whatever. You just get the water out, and who cares?
I'm getting close to this. I need to talk to Max, and I have a feeling he won't just pay for it, but I have a feeling he might split it with me. And so I want to get like I think it's called VLC. It's like the kind of vinyl flooring you see like in a 50s diner where it's like checkered.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I want to get checkered, but like kind of like
so it can get wet. It doesn't really matter, but it still looks like a finished floor.
Exactly.
Yeah, you should do it.
So
yeah,
that's the next step.
That'd be a huge improvement in there. Yeah.
I was so like when I kind of got everything wired up, I had so many wires and gear that like I never wanted to. I don't think I ever unwired my studio in the 10 years. I just kept adding on, and by the end, I just had snakes and piles of shit back there. So
Did you
that
lose
was
a bunch
always
of gear when it flooded.
Yeah, I had a pretty big insurance claim that first time because I wasn't expecting it, so I hadn't gone and like moved anything off the floor.
Right.
So I lost a few mics, a couple of guitars, just things like that. So, but I had insurance, luckily.
That's good.
So that they were actually really cool about it. I guess because everyone else got flooded too, so they couldn't.
Expecting,
they weren't like, "Oh, you sure it got flooded?" It's like, okay, cool. Another.
The whole city
we got
flooded.
another guy in Nashville, so it was like pretty easy to get the money from them. The second time it flooded, I was here when it happened. Like I had friends back here bailing water out, trying to like keep it from flooding, and then finally it just kept coming and coming until finally we were just like, we can't do it, and it started coming in. So then I was like, okay, guys, everyone in, let's get everything up. So all my friends just took everything and like lifted it up, and we didn't lose anything. But
I had that same experience too, except I was alone.
Oh, dude, I just remember that feeling. My heart would always just be like, yeah. It's
that when
fun.
you decided to get out of here?
Yeah. So that the second. I mean, at that point, I'd been here 10 years, and I was kind of ready for a change, anyways. And I'd been wanting to build my own place, and so that was kind of like the push I needed because this place was just I was cozy here, everything was easy. But I needed that push, and so I just couldn't kind of rebuild again after that second flood. I was like, okay, this is time. So then I just got all my stuff packed up, and I was out like 3 days later. So, yeah, and I've been kind of in transition, honestly, the last 2 years since then. So I then went immediately kind of searching for a house to buy to build a studio in. That took a long time to find, and then bought my house last year, and then began the whole, plan of like building a studio and finding a contractor and designing it. And it's
a lot of money.
It's a lot. It's just a lot of everything. And so it's actually we just passed inspection this week. So
oh wow.
Yeah, it's finally done. So I'll be probably moving all my stuff in next month in January. So it was a 2-year process.
Kill you if it flooded.
I know. Day one, you move in, it starts raining.
No, honestly, like everyone I met with, I was like, the number one thing I will not like tolerate. I was like, it has to be like several feet above, like it has to be. So that was one of the hard parts. It's on a slab, but the slab is like 4 feet off the ground. So we basically had to build like a swimming pool of like stone and rock to build it up, and then lay the slab on top of that. Because I was like, I did not want it anywhere near like where it can flood.
Hey, better to plan for it and pay for it now.
Yeah, so
Cool.
No, if it flooded, all of Germantown would be underwater. I'll put it that way. Like,
and then there'd be other concerns. That's the end of the world situation.
So if that happens, like there's more to be worried about than my studio. So hopefully that won't be an issue, but you never know. So I'm excited for it. That's gonna be really cool.
So what are you working on these days?
So I'm always kind of constantly working with lots of new country artists, kind of developing them, and Yeah, right now I'm working with a guy named Cameron Marlowe that was on The Voice a year or two ago. He did really well. I don't know what place he was in because I never watched the show, but he did well in there. And he moved to town last year, and he's been getting a ton of hype recently, which is awesome. He had on Spotify, the song we did was on the top 50 viral songs which was like really cool for like a few weeks. It was on there, so it was gaining a lot of traction. He's got an incredible voice. It's kind of like Gavin DeGraw country. Is the way I could describe his voice. Okay, yeah. So it's like soulful. The second he opens his mouth, you're just like, okay, I'm a fan. So I'm excited about that guy's stuff. A girl named Lauren Dusky, who is also on The Voice. Did a project with her that's been doing really well, and she's been, really gaining some steam, and she might be close to signing a deal soon. So yeah, just new artists like that I've been developing, and you're always kind of just crossing your fingers waiting for the next one because it's like, you never know when it's going to happen. So
yeah, and are you mainly within the country world?
Yeah, I would say I like doing more of the organic country stuff where it's, again, like because of the way I grew up, I love real instruments. I love just capturing performances, like whether that's on guitar, whether that's vocal performances, whatever it is. Like when I comp vocals, I comp as I go. Like which many people don't do that. Like a lot of people in town just, hey, record like 3 takes, we got it, but as I'm recording vocals, I make little, I have a whole track that's just a track that I make little highlights on as they're singing. And so if they sing a phrase I love, I'll just mark it as they're going, and then I pull it down the second it takes over into a new a comp track. Mm-hmm. So after 6 or 7 takes, then I can see what I have on my comp track, and usually it's most of the song at that point, and those are all moments that I felt special about, and I was like, man, that was really cool. So then it's already kind of comped with stuff that I liked, and then it's just a matter of going through those options that I liked, and there's stuff might be a couple times you go, yeah, it wasn't that great. So I love doing stuff that way, where it's just if it moves you at the time, then that was special. Don't overthink it, And oftentimes if you wait and comp it later on, I feel like the magic was lost. You've already kind of lost that moment, so it might not be the same. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I love that kind of stuff.
Let me give that a shot.
Yeah, try it.
Yeah. I'm definitely paying attention and trying to make sure but I keep it in my brain what was good or bad or whatever.
And if there's a spot where they always kind of keep messing it up, you're like, yeah, you still haven't really got that pre-chorus or something.
And then I go back and get all analytical later. But I've heard about people comping as they go, but I've never heard a good case for it. That was a good case.
Yeah. Yeah. Give it a shot and see. Some artists, it freaks them out because they're expecting to do that whole painstaking process. I mean, that's the other thing too, is it's just a pain sometimes to go through all your takes.
A bunch of times.
I've never had an artist that wanted to comp vocals with me until this year. And we found a pretty good system. But the first time the artist wanted to comp vocals with me, I was like, oh, no, God, no. We'll have 10 takes, and the only way I've found to be able to get through that much material and make something and be able to hear the differences is for me to get really fast and really just in that zone where you're just making instant decisions, but you're not.
Do you listen through all 10, or if you get to take 3 and you love it, do you move on to the next phrase?
I do all 10.
So you always make sure you listen to every.
It sort of depends.
You find something you absolutely are sold on.
I start figuring out
that take was a really special one.
Always pretty good.
Yeah.
Honestly, the way I comp, and I'm not saying it's better or it's right. I'm kind of hearing I'm like, man, this sounds more romantic. I kind of like it. But the way I've always done it, I'm just I'm soloing through the takes. I've got all my key commands just going up and down through those takes, and I'm just blah da 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 da. I'm just that micro about it.
Yeah.
And then I hone in on these 3, it was red, green, and blue those are the best ones. Okay,
those
now
I
solo between
ones.
red, green, and blue, and then I'm like, wait, but red, I like the breathiness of the tone in red. Okay, red. Boom, next section. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of that way about it. I go over it in an exhaustive, very fast, in a way that an artist couldn't track.
And some people are just sitting there and they're kind of what is he even doing? They just hear a bunch of the same take.
I do it later when they're not here, because if they're here,
well, it can drive them crazy sometimes because they're just hearing their imperfections over and over again and different things. You know?
And they're they want more context, they're not able to kind of hone in on hearing all that sounds the same to me, and I'm like, yeah, but it's
it's
that's why they
different,
hire you.
But a lot of times you can only
'Cause
hear
they're
it's different when you're very rapid
and
fire
you know what you're
ADing.
listening for, and
Yeah.
they might be like going, they might be just thinking pitch the whole time, or just whatever, and you're hearing something different. I hate tuning vocals in front of artists. Like that's one thing I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
like doing because when it's just, and I just feel like. Yeah, it's just because you're so focused on what they didn't do perfect, like right there in front of them. You know what I mean? And so it's
Yeah.
like so obvious that I just don't like that. It just makes me feel weird, and I start like thinking about what they're thinking about while I'm trying to tune the vocal. And it's
Right.
like, just no, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
What are you tuning? What's your
Melodyne.
choice? Melodyne.
You?
So I actually just kind of switched to Melodyne recently, about 3 or 4 months ago. I've always
Were you
used it.
auto-tuned?
I've always just used it for multi-timbre stuff. Like I love it on like guitars. If you ever use like the thing where you can
DNA.
like,
Yeah.
it's awesome if you have like a great performance, but like the G string was a little sharp or something, you know, and you can go in and it does great for that. But I was always waves tune for vocals. I've been a waves tune guy for years. I'll use auto-tune for like background vocals or something where I just
Same.
want to throw it on and I
Yeah.
don't go in and do the
Right.
crazy stuff inside it. I was always waves tune. Melodyne just always seemed, I don't know, I just never loved. It didn't seem like it had enough control for me. And I love how auto-tune you can like, or waves tune, you can literally like draw everything exactly how
Right,
you
which
want
is
it.
like post auto tune.
Yeah.
Well, it's an auto tune feature that they incorporate.
They can do it now,
to be able
yeah.
to draw.
So
but-
you can get super nitpicky with it. But I've also always thought that Melodyne sounded better. So I've always kind of had this weird thing where I was like, I think Melodyne sounds better than Waves Tune. Like in terms of like if you really hyper tune a note, I feel like you
Right.
can hear that more in Waves Tune than Melodyne.
Because in Melodyne, unless you aggressively smash the pitch dynamics,
Mm-hmm.
in Melodyne you're just adjusting the contours that they naturally had, and
Yeah.
you're just kind of bending them into
bending
the
that
right
into
note.
the right versus like leveling it out.
Exactly. And in autotune when you would manually draw, you're creating new vibratos their voice didn't have. Like you're dramatically
And it gets that
changing what
weird
it
little
is.
like, it's just like a little high frequency thing you can hear. And it's like, oh, I can hear the tuning. So I've always kind of been curious about doing more Melodyne. So I finally just like bit the bullet and like, I'm only going to tune in Melodyne for like a few months. So I did that and now I know it well. It's still, there's things that I miss about Waves Tune, but I kind of now choose, I kind of pick and choose depending on the singer and the performance. Like if it's something where I have to get really specific about the tuning and I need to really go in there, then I'm still going to do Waves Tune. But if it's like a good singer and I really want that tone for Melodyne, then I'll do Melodyne. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad I finally learned both though, because it's a good skill.
Okay, here's like an interesting line of question. I don't know if it's like if this gets awkward, feel free to like shut it off. But like
Awkward. Now, where are you going with this?
no, well, because it kind of depends on what your experience was.
Yeah.
Whether like it's like a politically correct answer or not. Oh, if you want to like just bend it down a little bit so it's like kind of up at your mouth and not covering your face. I just saw some of the video.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I think that's better.
Hey guys, what's up?
Yeah. So you kind of started off with Maren when she was an unknown. I don't know if you're like it's maybe I don't know if I should say you were the first person. She probably done other things. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, she recorded lots of people. I think she had a career in Texas somewhat before she moved here, and when she moved here, she was friends with Casey. So Casey Musgraves kind of like walked her to different publishers, and she signed her deal pretty quickly for publishing. But yeah,
You were like kind of in the earlier days or when she was like an unknown, and then you rode that roller coaster, and then like I imagine you're not working together today, right? Like, she's gone on to
Well, yeah, so Busby-
Zed and,
yeah.
okay.
But Busby, in terms of the country world, kind of like did her whole new record. I think she did some with Greg Kirsten also out in LA. But Busby kind of, and he just passed away like a few months ago too, which is really unfortunate. But he did kind of all of the new stuff with her.
So my like question was what is that like? Like I haven't had that with an artist like where they like somebody I felt like I helped be part of the development and then they like took off.
Go somewhere else.
And then you like stop working with them, yeah.
But it's like it's definitely it's not like it's not like a weird thing because obviously like most artists don't stay with the same producer all their career and like even like artists that do for a while they try new things. They go
Yeah,
through
I mean,
fresh
people always
stuff.
say like, every artist should fire their producer after every like 4 records or something. You know, like just because you can kind of get into like a groove, which is good, but then occasionally it gets like
Stale.
Yeah, or just you want to try something different.
Yeah, I heard like Bob Rock was Metallica's main guy for a long time, and I watched like I think it was in some kind of monster where they decided like we've just kind of gone as far as we can. Like we've been with the same guy for like 15, 20 years.
Time to try something new out, get a new sound, get a new vibe.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, no, it's definitely a weird thing. It's a very personal feeling, and it feels I mean, you can definitely take it in every different way and go like, oh, what did I do wrong? How did I lose the gig? Whatever. And I've had all the different emotions over it before, you know. So it's definitely not a weird question or not awkward, but it's, yeah, you know, I guess the way I choose to look at it is like, it helped my career out, and she also, like Busby at the time when he kind of like took that gig over, was at the top of his game in this town. He had a ton of stuff before then, and so he
like a
was,
laudable
and
step.
he's a very talented dude. I mean, that guy is just a monster. You know, what I mean, like monster songwriter, player, everything. And so it just kind of makes sense. You know, I respect him and I understand why that happened, but it didn't make it any easier. It's still kind of like that sucks, you know, but like, oh well.
Is it hard not to like take it personally?
Yeah, I mean,
that
so
kind of the big-
my friends often like give me crap about that stuff. So because it's funny because I've had 3 artists that are like huge artists that I produced their first stuff in town. Brett Young, Brothers Osborne, and Maren. Like I did all 3 of their first EPs, and all 3 of them were nominated for, you know, Maren and Brett Young both won New Country Artist of the Year. You know, like they've all done huge things. So my friends are always joking like that I'm like just the guy that develops new people and that's all I'm ever going to be or something, you know. So
Rude.
it's I mean, well, whatever, you know, your friends always
Yeah,
give
they're
you
gonna give
crap over
you
stuff.
shit. Yeah,
Exactly.
of course they're gonna give you shit,
So
yeah.
that's just like this inside thing we always joke about, you know. Like so and the 3 producers that kind of took those 3 gigs were Dan Huff produces Brett Young, and then my mind's blanking. East Nashville producer that I'll think of it in a second, but
With a J.
Jay Joyce, thank you. I
I
was like,
just started the J.
It is
it
Jay.
is Jay. Yeah. So Jay Joyce does Brothers Osborne, and then Busby. So all 3 of those guys I immensely respect and look up to, you know, and have huge long track records. I mean, yeah, like Dan Huff has been the biggest name in this town for 30 years as a producer, you know. So
It seems like when if an artist really pops off and gets the attention of everybody, like at that point, I don't know if it's, maybe you'd have more insight than me because I haven't been a part of that ride, but it's like, it seems like whether it's the labels or management or the teams, whoever it is like, okay, the top people are interested in you right now, so that's what you have to do. Like,
yeah,
you
and
need success.
it really depends too on like the kind of the way I think that the people kind of develop. So like Brothers Osborne, for instance, their sound was very different at first, and so I mean it still is different. So people didn't catch on right away. It was kind of like some artists, you put it out there and people are just catch on very quickly, and so then whoever's involved in that first step goes along the ride with them. With Brothers Osborne, it was a tough sell with people because he doesn't sound like TJ sounds different. They have 3-minute guitar solos that, you know, it's just a different kind of formula for country than most people. So since I was in the beginning stages of that, you know, I had their first 2 singles that they put out, and the best one was their second one for me, and it still only got to like 24. So basically the label goes, okay, well, that's not high enough. We want at least top 10. So then we need to go elsewhere with production or whatever. So they knew that Jay Joyce had delivered them number 1s before. So they said, okay, let's go that way. And Jay Joyce is amazing, you know? And so, I think with that process, it was like, because it wasn't working with fans right away, they just started going, okay, what's wrong? How do we fix this? And that was kind of the easy way to fix it or whatever. So it's really, and then like with Maren, she went and wrote her first 2 singles with Busby, like 80s Mercedes and My Church were her first 2 singles, and he wrote those with her. So that was like a kind of no-brainer. Like after he wrote those and they were hits, it was like, okay, well, he's going to produce from now on, you know?
Sure.
And since I don't write, that wasn't really an option for me. So every circumstance is different, but it's just, that's been kind of a common thing that's happened to me for a few different times. So, but you know, you just kind of take it for what it is and move on and do the next one. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I see you're adjusting. I'm giving you a little.
Oh,
there you
yeah.
go.
Is that a better angle?
Yeah, just trying to get a little closer to you.
Cool.
People can see your beautiful mouth.
Awesome.
Your beautiful mouth.
I just saw
Creepiest thing you've said today.
Sorry, I just saw him.
Yeah, cut that. No.
I have extreme blood loss. I'm not.
You're not quite there.
Yeah. He's
Extreme blood
bleeding.
loss.
I
Yeah,
just saw here a comment in the chat. Nickelback is not that bad. That's the comment.
Wait, that's funny because like my friends and I joke about Nickelback all the time. So I'm like, is some of my
It's
friends
definitely.
like, spamming me?
I know this guy. It's
I'm
definitely
like, is
not-
someone spamming me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you guys Nickelback fans? No, Nickelback. Nickelback is actually amazing. Do you remember that thing on Facebook where it would like remove your Facebook friends who followed Nickelback?
What?
Yeah, it was like an app. It was.
Oh my
It was
God.
literally an app on Facebook that if you like ran the app, it would search through your friend list, and whoever followed Nickelback, they would remove them from your list. It's pretty amazing.
What happened to Nickelback? Why did they become this joke?
I don't know. I mean, like they had some good songs.
Yeah, they're fine.
Like, yeah, and I mean, and Joey Moy, who's huge in country right now, he did all their stuff, and so that started. If you think about like FGL, they're pretty much Nickelback with like a little more twang.
Yeah, I don't think Nickelback would have been so hated in country.
Yeah, not at all.
They probably hit it at the wrong time.
I think it's easy. I think it's easy.
Yeah, they did. I think they did just fine.
Well,
or doing
and I
just
think
fine.
our culture with internet and everything, it's easy for people to like hate on stuff.
Or
just
like latch
because
on to somebody else's making fun of it too.
yeah,
Yeah.
like there's so many. Like for instance, I drive a minivan. I've had a minivan for years. I love it. People's reactions are always so funny when I say it. They're always like, "What?" Like as if I like offended them to the core.
That's the title of the episode.
Then
Brad Hill drives a minivan.
Yes, there it is. It literally like offends them. They drive a minivan, and it's because they have this weird thing that they're taught from social media, from whatever, that you're not supposed to like a minivan. And I'm like, okay, you drive an SUV that's literally the exact same thing minus sliding doors, and it costs half as much as yours, and I can fit a sheet of plywood in the back. I
don't know. You sound an awful like a guy trying to defend minivans right now. I don't think I take you seriously.
But it's so funny, and so I think our culture has this thing where we like are supposed to like certain things, we're supposed to hate certain things, and I've always tried to resist that. Like people need to think for themselves more. Like I don't know.
So you got Nickelback posters on your wall.
And my
driving a
minivan,
minivan,
yes.
wearing Crocs.
I record on
You have
Cubase.
Crocs on?
I do everything. No, I don't. But
that'd be hilarious if you did.
Another thing is against the grain. I do everything in Cubase. I've always been a Cubase guy.
Oh wow.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the grain.
Yep. So Cubase on a PC.
All right, let's talk about that for a second because that's important.
Yes.
On a
Cubase
PC.
on a PC.
So
And
is that
I'll-
because
and
PCs are
I'll-
superior in every way?
Real quick. If anybody out in the studio will get me some water, I'm just a little concerned about my health because I'm dying and bleeding out.
Oh, are you serious right now?
Thank you.
Yep.
Well,
No, I don't think I'm dying or bleeding
You just
out.
need some
you're
water.
just thirsty.
I've
Let's
been-
be real.
No, I've been kind of faint all day.
He's a
And
thirsty
since there's
bitch.
People here rather than me interrupting the show to get water, it might be.
Yeah.
He's interrupted to describe how to get water.
Yeah, plus I'll be tempted to take my bandages off.
No, don't do
Plus
that.
I'm bleeding
I'd probably
outside.
faint because I don't like blood. I'd be like, oh.
Oh, it's pretty
Yeah.
gnarly. I'm not queasy. I saw it and I was like, ooh. Like I'm not the kind of
And I'm
person.
not-
I'm like picturing it
I
now,
think
which
I
is
handled
not
it pretty
not
well.
fun.
It's worse. It's probably way
It's
worse
worse
in your
than
head.
picturing?
It's like
Oh.
hanging on by one thread.
Oh no, I'm good.
When it happened, we were in here and there was Austin was around and my buddy Nathan was around, keyboard player, and everybody was like, "Whoa, what do we do?"
Where were you when it happened? Like, were you in the bathroom?
Right.
Here, exactly here.
Where's the
where I'm
stain?
sitting
There was a trash bag right here.
There's a few little bloodstains on the ground.
Little
Oh yeah, I see
droplets.
one. Yep, I see
tried
one
to
right there.
wipe them up, but also I have a cut on my hand, so it's hard to wipe things. But anyway, back to the PC Mac thing.
Yeah. So PCs are better in every way, is what you're saying.
Well, what's funny is like I don't have a droid, so and I kind of judge droids only because of green text, but like I've actually always told people if somehow iMessage was on, if you could get that on like a droid, I would.
Which I
switch.
admit, iMessage is better than Android texting. It's just
It is, yeah.
100% better
It is
in
better.
every way.
But I just so because of like the shame of like green text, I would never switch that. But everything else, yeah, I'm just not.
Thank you very much.
I'm not a fan of giving like Apple more money than I need to. So
So you don't want to waste the money on the expensive, cheap hardware.
So I guess I don't like being told by someone else what to do. And so like when Apple
get
Apple
that
decides that you don't need FireWire anymore, you don't need Lightning or whatever they decide, I don't want my career tied into that at all. Like I hate that. And so that's my main reason for sticking on PC is that like I can do what I want and I can go get whatever computer I want with whatever hardware I want on it. Versus
Absolutely.
I hear so many horror stories from all my friends on Macs all the time. And I'm like, why do you do that to yourselves? Like, what are you getting out of that?
Like, buy a more powerful computer for cheaper.
Besides spending all this money on like some shitty computer.
Yeah,
you
just
know?
because it has that little fucking Apple on it.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, Steve
And
Jobs is
I
sucking
mean,
dick. All right.
I do think
You
he
heard
was-
it here first from Brad.
I do think Steve Jobs. Well, I do think Steve Jobs was great, and
Yeah,
I
he was
think that
great.
they
I don't feel
did
that
they did
strong.
have a thing.
Hey, there's an Apple employee in here.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Oh,
I
that's
forgot
right,
you
that's
were.
right.
Is there a genius here?
Austin is a genius.
Oh, okay.
I forgot.
I think he just like sabotaged the video. Also,
I know. He's like,
gone black.
delete the episode.
I just want to say I like Apple. So anyway, keep going.
No, it's fine.
I mean, Apple's
sorry. So
fine.
you're an Apple hater, and he's an Apple guy.
He's like, I don't hate Apple. I just hate that so many people love it blindly.
Yes, I'm the same way.
Because so many ways, PC has so many advantages. But I think the iPad is the best tablet there is.
Yes, for sure. The way like they're the best
perfect.
responsive screens. Like they just feel
think
better.
The iPhone used to be the best phone there was, but now they're falling behind. I feel like
They're
not
yeah.
as intuitive and they're slow. But as far as computers are concerned, the PC just blows out of the water in every area. Performance $1.
Well, because they've quit like targeting like their users that way. Like
Right.
they've turned into just like they want to sell to like girls in college dorms. Like that's
Exactly.
that's
And
kind
they-
of their
and they're
market.
doing a
they
great
are.
job at that.
But so they don't care about like creatives and people that are using them for that reason anymore. I think they've just turned so.
But
and I
there's
feel like Pro
one-
Tools is kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Like I look at Pro Tools, like I look at Avid and Apple as the same kind of thing, and that's why I resist both of them because it's just. People use them because they're supposed to, quote unquote, and it's like, why? Says who? You know, but
So because you use PC, because I don't know the your side of things as much.
yeah,
But the Windows audio drivers are like not as good as Mac audio drivers. That is like the one ASIO. Drivers are so much better, but you can use them on Windows. but like
yeah,
there's
I use
problems.
ASIO drivers.
Okay.
No,
I've
yeah.
had problems with
But
it.
see,
using it for
I don't
other
use any
things.
Windows. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't use the drivers for the interface that you're using. So
What
you
interface do
wouldn't.
you have?
I have two. I've had Mode 2 stuff for years, and I use some of their stuff. But then I have what's it called? I'll think of it in a second. It's an 8-channel links.
Oh,
It's the
okay,
links,
yeah.
whatever. I forget their 8-channel one.
He tried to get a universal audio device for his
Right.
PC, and it had weird latency issues.
So
and
the
just
weird.
but a big problem with
'Cause
that.
I have Universal Audio for. I don't have an interface,
Yeah.
but I have their plugins.
Well, I think the
Right.
problem was I wasn't using a DAW. I was using other programs that do audio things, and they weren't compatible with ASIO.
Right.
And there was no good way to convert it
Yeah.
that worked well. That wasn't either just glitchy or laggy or latency latency issues or something.
Yeah, no, I've had
So
no
I
issues
sold
with
it.
drivers at all with the links and the Mode 2 drivers.
So it makes sense
I
that,
have
like,
like
Cubase would
crazy
be
good.
designed to
Yeah,
handle
I have
that,
crazy
yeah.
good latency. I mean, that's one thing I love about Cubase is you can record 30 whatever tracks with full plugins like a mix on every track with no latency, and the people at Pro Tools are like, what? And I've been able to do that since 2004. Like, so I'm just and people see that and they're like, are you kidding me? Like, but Pro Tools has never been able to do that. And I don't understand why Cubase has been able to do it for so long and Pro Tools can't. So it's like if I want to throw like a compressor, like reverb, anything on every track while I'm doing it in the DAW, you just do it and it has no latency. So,
They just had to hop on board the PC train, Ryan.
well, no, that's
Get
not,
your
that,
shit
that's not
together.
a PC thing. That's a Cubase thing.
Yeah. But we'll
So,
work with me here. I'm trying to get Ryan on PCs.
I could talk for hours about why I love Cubase over Pro Tools because I know Pro Tools well too. I mean, you have to use it, but I use it when I have to track on other places basically, and then to convert back in my place. But
Gotcha.
yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm
Yeah.
Pro Tools ride or die, so we can't have that talk.
Right or die.
You can have me.
So
you can
far,
have
we've been
me all
relating so
day.
well. We have a San Diego. We have this flood connection. I just don't want to ruin that with
And then
our
all of
Pro
a
Tools
sudden-
Cubase fight. And maybe I'm supposed
we-
to follow in your footsteps yet again, and apparently,
I've converted. A friend of mine just bought Cubase. He just bought it like 2 months ago. Like he's been hearing my spiel for years, and finally he was like, "I'm gonna freaking try it." So yeah, I mean, I've been converting people since 2002.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What else should we talk about? I feel
Did you
like
just-
I guess I'm just trying to get us off this PC Mac train.
You're- yeah, no, I know you hate that. You hate
Do you hate
that.
that? You hate like the whole PC Mac argument?
He does
No,
because
not really.
well,
I'm
I'm very strongly PC.
I've been on Mac for
Yeah.
since 2008.
Okay.
and we talk a lot, so we've had this discussion a lot.
Yeah, so
okay.
we've had the Mac versus
A
PC conversation.
lot.
And I'm happy to let you have somebody who agrees with you. It's nice.
Yeah,
because
it's
you
quite
have
rare.
people in
Yeah.
here who like the design of computers instead of the actual function. But
No, I mean, no, trust me, I get all that stuff. I get it all. I just, I'm not like PC or die, you know what I mean? Like I have a MacBook, like I
right,
just
we're
I
PC
have
people.
both.
We're more reasonable than that.
But yeah, we don't have to stay on that. We can go back to music. That's not really
Let me
music.
ask you
That's
this. You've mentioned big drum several times. So like, what's your
Okay.
drum thing? Like, if you're gonna do a drum thing,
Yeah.
Let me say ideal situation, like your best studio
in town.
to
I would say
use.
Blackbird D. If you've been in that room before,
I think so. Is D the one that has like a rock wall that's
Yeah.
covered by a curtain?
It has a curtain.
and wood
Mhm.
walls. Yeah. I did a thing there.
that room, the drum sounds are incredible. I mean, like there's a lot of great drum rooms in town, but that one's just amazing. I love big rooms. So my new studio has a big room. Like I'm trying to make it smaller right now. I just measured. It's not treated yet, so it's all just open. But right now it has a 1.7 second reverb in it.
Holy crap!
Yeah, like
Natural, just from
hold on.
walls.
I'm gonna see if I can. I think I have a voice note of me clapping in there. We can maybe either pick it up
Yeah,
on here. We can
yeah.
see.
Oh, well, yeah.
Okay, let's see. I think this is it.
Damn.
Yeah, that's the drum room.
No, that's a gunshot.
Exactly. So it's it's awesome. So like I need to make it smaller right now. It's just too big. But I love just smashing the hell out of like room mics on just drums. I mean, but I love lots of different styles. But like that's really fun to record. Like a good drummer with good pocket and just playing like old.
So wait,
old
slow us
Ludwigs
down.
or
Take it back.
something.
Mics.
Okay.
Your ideal mic setup. Like
Okay,
obviously it changes per project, but just like
So I love SM7s on snares.
same. Okay, we're doing good. We're doing
for
good.
several reasons. One,
don't
they
have to have the same
isolate
opinion.
more from the hat than 57s because they're more cardioid than 57s, and they have less gain. Because I used to always find that 57s you'd have to like turn all the pads on, and you couldn't even turn the pre up. With SM7s, you
Yeah.
can actually turn the pre up and get some of like the sound
color,
of the pre. So I do that on top always. Toms, it just depends on the song. I mean, you can't go wrong with 421s, but actually, I would say ideally, Mic Tech has it's a company here in town. They have their version of 57. It's a little silver mic. I forget what it's called, but
last
I've got
week-
a couple of them.
Didn't someone else also didn't Joe also talk about Mic Tech as well?
Maybe
And you hadn't heard of it?
familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a local company. They have like a few. They have a couple like vocal mics that are great too. But these little dynamic mics are kind of 57-ish. They're great on toms, amazing on guitar. To me, on guitar, they're kind of like it's kind of like a mix of a 121 and a 57 in the same mic. So it's got like a little more low end and body than
Which
57.
for a long time was like the standard thing everybody did was like a 57 and a 121 on cab.
Oh yeah, I mean so much so that they have those like mic clips now that literally have both on one clip. So,
Oh, really?
so you can like slide the 121 in, and then it has the thing for the 57, and it's phase line ready to go. You just put them in, and you're good.
Wow, that's cool.
So the Mic Tech mic is great for toms. I would say hat. It just really depends on the song because like I love really dark hats a lot. Like I love ribbon mics. Like an old RCA ribbon or something. If it's more like a trashy kind of a thing. But then if it's like a real glossy song, then I love 414s. I love 84s, 53s, all that kind of stuff. Overheads. Probably my most common one would be like old 414s. I just love those. I feel like you get everything you need. They're not super hyped and annoying with the high end, but they're just warm. Rooms, I like ribbons for the most part. So like some kind of stereo ribbon or something like a R88 or maybe 2 Coles 4038s. I also like, if it's more aggressive, I like 2 large diaphragm condensers. And then I love just really smashing them like to tape, like not even like pretending not to. It's just like I'm going to be super aggressive and almost really just like
now
a
just your
wall.
room specifically or everything?
Sometimes I do everything, yeah, depending on what I'm going for. I'm not afraid to like compress a lot to tape. Vocals,
Yeah.
like I've done a lot of vocals with 2 compressors. Like I'll do
Yeah.
like a fast and a slow compressor at the same time. Because I feel like you're going to do it anyways, so why not like do it with this good gear on the way in?
Right.
And then the performer will often like perform their stuff differently, hearing the way it's supposed to be in their cans versus just being totally raw when it's never going to sound that way later on.
Right.
So I've always wanted to, and I've never done this, but I've always wanted to do a session with all like 57s or whatever, like all dynamic mics. But I had an assistant once that said, a producer once told him, okay, today we can only use black mics. He was like, I don't care what they are. He was like, I just want to switch it up. Your choice, black mics only on the drums. So one day I want to do that to assistant, just be like,
That's
yeah,
fun.
your pick, whatever. But
I've done that a lot to assistants, is like give them a list and had just options like
see what they
for
pick?
certain things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like your choice, whatever. Because if I truly hate it,
you can
I
always
can switch it up, right?
Yeah, and sometimes it might be like really cool, and it's something they
Right.
might have picked up from some other producer that you didn't think about.
Yeah, you're trying because most of the good assistants, like
They've seen it all.
yeah, they've worked for a ton of producers. Now sometimes I feel like they just pick really most likely
Common
the
ones.
standard-
The standard
choices.
step
Sure.
47 on the outside of the kick, and
Yeah, it's because they want to like goal one is to please you and for you to not be You know what I mean? So sometimes they're more like people pleasing.
Like they're not going out of their way to try to be
But see,
creative.
that's the hard part about this town
Right.
is like it's like you hear people say, like a lot of session guys I know, they get inspired when you do something different on the way in, and you're like you smash
Right.
something or you do it weird, and that makes them really inspired to play. But then if you go too far, or you don't want to go like so extreme that you wreck the performance and you don't have something that you tried to capture. So it's always trying to ride that fine line of like not going too far but still doing something different. So I did 57s a few times on the overheads, and that was pretty cool. Just because they're so directional compared to most overhead mics.
Yeah.
That it's kind of cool if you want like really like left and right crashes and stuff where it's like very isolated. So that's kind of fun to mess with.
Have you ever used an AKG D19?
Is that because you just bought 2 of them?
I just bought 2 of them.
Is that like what kind of mic is it? I'm trying to remember.
It's a dynamic microphone. It's in the other room where I'd show it to you. But
Is it
it's
like a 57-ish kind of a thing?
Not exactly, but it's not too far off.
I've used a
but it's-
224. Have you used one of those?
Is that a
That's like a-
Sennheiser?
No, I think it's an NKG. It's a long like silver dynamic mic. It's
This is-
great on like
it's long,
hi-hat.
it's silver. It's
Probably just like that, but just a
AKG,
different version maybe.
But it's basically like if you've ever seen old pictures of Ringo, it was his overhead. Like they had a single overhead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
That's what they used. So I was recently. I've been buying. I never intended to do drums here. When I first got the place, I thought I would never do drums here.
Why?
And
Just,
then,
like, you just
well, mostly because I didn't have the money for like.
all the mics, and the
211,
pre's,
all the
everything, yeah.
mics, all the pre's, 211 76s, 2 distressors, to this, and getting all of the gear that it would take. Like the drum chain I was used to having.
And
If I
also, you
wanted-
didn't have a drum kit. At the
and
time.
I didn't have a drum kit at the time. Yeah,
There's
And
lots
so-
of things you did not have at the point. Yeah.
Exactly, and that like if you go to like a major commercial studio, if you to get the same chain here would be 50 to 100 grand probably, and so I was like, well, I would love to in the future, but I don't have the resources. But slowly over time, things have built up, and then my buddy started keeping his drum kit here. And
Yeah,
then,
that just made sense. Like,
yeah,
okay,
exactly.
now I need drum mics.
And then I got that all tech, and I'm like, oh well, now I have 10 pre's, so we're good there. And then yeah, exactly. It just keeps building. And somebody
Totally.
tricked me into doing a drum session. They called it percussion, but it was drums, and so and it came out pretty good. And I was like, okay, so I've been building.
And if you have a good
Mm-hmm.
drum set and a good player, I mean, you can honestly an iPhone sounds good. I mean, like I just feel like so much of it's
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah,
I love recording drums. It's probably one of my favorite things to record of any instrument.
it's probably the most fun thing.
Yeah, because it's a challenge. It's just hard. I recently saw a cool video on mixing drums that kind of inspired the way it made me think about stuff in a whole different way that I hadn't done. Because it's so easy to get lazy when you're mixing and just use samples and everything, and it's kind of like, okay, these sounds are good enough. Now I just start throwing my samples in, and then it works, because you're pretty much just using the overheads in the room, a little bit of the snare and the kick, and then you just stack all your samples in. But this guy had this whole thing about mixing without samples and making it sound big, and I've been trying it, and it's been fun, like kind of challenging myself to like get a big drum sound without any samples.
Yeah. What
and
were
it's-
some of the tips in the video?
A couple things I liked a lot were he would like split the kick and snare into several tracks. So there'd be one track for like the high end of the kick and then one for the low end. So he would actually use the kick in mic as just like the attack. He'd roll off all the lows up to like 250 on the kick in, which I've never done that before. And then he would only use the kick out for all that punch for the low end. And then, so he'd blend
yeah.
those together. And that was a really cool sound just in of itself. Because I would always record kick out, and then I would just put a touch of it in there, and it was always
Right.
kind of like, why am I even doing this? I didn't
Yeah.
really love it. So that was a new thing. And then snare, same thing. He would just like mix just the low end of one input, then duplicate it and do just the top end, and compress them differently, saturate them differently, and then mix them together, and it gives you like all the attack from one and all the low end smack of a different one.
Yeah, I see.
And another thing he had was cool was he was using the rooms. He was gating the rooms and then triggering them off of the kick and snares. So he would like duplicate his room tracks, smash them in different ways, and then he have one that was like room snare, one that was room kick. They're all the same room mics, but he would label them differently. Then so the room kick would be gated and attached to his kick in mic. So the kick in mic would like open the room on just when it triggered. So he would get like the length of the thing,
Yeah.
So that way it would make his drums sound that much bigger immediately just from those. But the trick with that is you have to then depending on how far your room mics are from the drum set, you have to like put a delay on your kick input into the sidechain so that it's actually triggering it when the kick is on versus if you think about it, like the room is hearing it 10 milliseconds later. So you put a delay on that so it's triggering at the exact same time as your kick. So it sounds really cool. Those are probably the things that I gained the most out of it. So it's been kind of fun to change up my mix template for drums because I was so used to just pulling up the same template and just going from there. And it's easy. I do a lot of template stuff because it saves time, but then you kind of get into that whole thing of like your stuff starts sounding similar after a while. Like, okay, I've used these same snare samples in 3 songs. I can't use them anymore.
Right.
So,
So do you produce, engineer, and mix most of your own things?
I don't mix stuff much anymore. I used to for the first 10 years I was doing it. I mixed like everything. And then 5-6 years ago, I started getting outside mixers. And at first it was a little hard for me to let go of that control because I would start tweaking their mixes subconsciously back into my mixes. I'd be like, oh, the low end needs to sound like this and the snares need to sound like this. And then before long, it was like, why don't I just mix it myself? So I had to let go of that control and like, okay, no, they're mixing it for a reason. I'm going to just trust that even though it's different than I hear it, that's cool. And once I was able to make that shift, then it was like, oh, actually, this sounds really cool. And then I started loving like using outside mixers.
Do you have a favorite mixer, couple mixers in town?
I have a few guys I love. Jim Cooley's probably mixed the most stuff for me. I mean, he's mixed a ton of my stuff. He and I he knows what I want really easily. And he's really open about like when you go in to a mix session with him, he's like very transparent about what he's doing. I found some mixers, they don't want to really show you like all their channel strips.
They just want you to accept it.
Yeah, and I'm very hands-on.
It's very secretive.
Yeah, and like I want to be like, okay, what do you have on the vocal? Like I'm hearing something that I don't like I want to see what it is. And if I can't see what's on there, then I can't really help get it to where I need it to be. Versus Jim's just like, oh, I've got these 4 plugins. And then I'm like, oh, try taking that one off. And then it's like, okay, yeah, now we're good.
Now, is it secret because like they're keeping like how they do it close to the chest, or just secret because they don't want to bother telling you?
I think it's secret because twofold. One, they want to keep their sound, their own sound. But I also think there's some bullshit mixed in with there where they like to make it seem like there's this mystery and they're doing stuff that we don't know about. When in reality, most of them aren't. They're just doing the same. It's all in your ears. But they want to pretend there's this thing.
They're doing like the same stuff everybody else does. It's just they're like
better at it.
Better, yeah.
They just have the ears to do it, or they have the experience. So that's.
I had an experience, and I can't say who this was with, but I had an experience where like I felt like all the mixes were not making me happy, and it was just like someone, and we're just like slowly got it there over time, but it's like wasn't stoked.
Like the first mixes when you got back, you weren't just like, wow, it was like,
right, and some of that is for other reasons, but like even like when we got to like better places, like. Just the fidelity of it to me like wasn't quite there, like, and initially they sent me like MP3s and then later I was like, could you send me a wave? They sent me a wave, and so it wasn't like the compression. But all that to say, when I got back the final mix, like when we finally said yes, these are done, send me the final mixes, I swear the final mixes sounded 10% better, and it just made me wonder if they maybe had on their master bus like just something like reducing high end a little bit and kind of just like making it a little
so that it
less.
would sound better.
So on purpose, so at the very end they could take it off and then
you'd be like, wow,
So you
that sounds
already-
great.
I'm gonna start doing that. No, I'm not.
That's actually smart. Yeah.
already accepted like okay it's good and then it gets a little
And it's
better,
better.
so now you're sealed and you're like not
Wow,
gonna
that's
go back.
that's actually interesting.
So-
That's
That's
I don't know if-
manipulative
but
as
so much,
fuck.
but so much of music
I don't know
though
if it's
is
true, but that's what it felt like.
so much of music though is perception and all of that. So I mean, like for instance.
You kind of
I shouldn't admit this, but like, if I'm not fully solid and confident in something I'm putting out there to someone, like if I just whatever, if it's we didn't have the time to get it to where I wanted to, or maybe I didn't even love the songs, whatever it was, I will always send them groups of mixes more than just like one at a time, because I've always noticed if you send someone one song at a time, you better be really freaking pumped about that one song, you know, versus if you send them like 4. You can sneak like 1 or 2 in there that aren't as good as the other 2, and they're like, "Oh, this is great, cool."
Right.
Versus you send them that one crappy song, they're like,
I don't know if you're like you're probably like this too, but like it's like you're gonna go back if something you're like not stoked on. A lot of times it's like I'm gonna go back and make that better later, but it depends on the client. But for my picky clients, it's like I just need them to accept it at a certain point and be like, I'm happy. because I've noticed, at least the clients I've worked with, my limited selection, it's like they're never that aware of the sonics. Like the mix will jump up, it'll get 25% better in the next version, and they seem to not even know.
Oh, I've had so many times, and this gets frustrating, but where I'll send the rough mix, not so many, but it's happened several times. I'll send my rough mix, like knowing that we're getting so-and-so to mix it, some very good mixer to mix it. And so I probably spent 20 minutes like refining my rough mix at the end of the recording process just to send it off so that they're happy to approve it to go to mix. And then the artist is like, oh, cool. So is this good? Like, can I release this one? And I'm like, no, like, did you miss the whole point? This is not mixed. This is the rough. You're about to spend a bunch of money to get this mixed, and then I'm like, wait, so should we not even mix it?
Do they not even know? They don't even care?
Yeah, and there was one time that happened, and then literally I was just kind of like, yeah,
fuck it.
we're good. I was like, yeah, we're good.
Perfect. Roll it out.
Print it.
Throw it on Spotify.
Because at that point it was, I thought the rough mix was good, but it does happen a lot though, where people don't understand like all the different, or they think that.
But that's why they hire you theoretically.
Or the opposite, they also think that like mastering is going to be some huge thing, in which mastering is worthless. Like no offense, but offense. Like seriously, master is like for the most part, you guys don't do much at all. Like get over yourselves. So like it's just true.
Record, I love my master.
Yeah. Dan, if you're listening, he was on the show. Dan, if you're listening,
well, and a lot of times I think it's mostly because like this is not a well-treated control room.
Yeah.
And,
okay, I was being very like facetious.
Oh yeah.
But in the scheme of things, though, I do think they do the least amount of the entire process.
Yeah.
Like they are doing the last 2%.
I just feel like
and
my
like
mastering guy is saving me constantly because I'm like, I think it sounds good, but like.
But can you tell me for sure?
I know my room is very, very imperfect.
Yeah.
And there's like frat bass coming down, so I love it.
He's like, I love that mix. What was that weird 808 that was like in the background of that ballad? Like you're like, oh, that was on purpose. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's one of those things where I'm like, I feel like if you're a great mixer, the mastering guy's doing almost nothing.
Yeah, because so many of my mixes come back and they're already because the 2-box is slammed, and so it's like. And they give the mastering guy the slammed, like most guys that mix for me now like give the compressed version to the mastering guys. They literally get everything, like they do nothing. They EQ a touch.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
That's it. And they listen for any kind of weird clicks or noises and they get rid of those and that's it.
So my experience with mastering engineers for like a long time was like same thing. I felt like every mastering guy I've done or had ever used didn't give me back something like better or much better. I'm like, okay, it's a little louder.
Yeah.
Until I found Dan, and then I was. Do you know Dan at all? Dan
What?
Scheich.
Does he work with Reed Shippen?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. He's mastered one or two things for me. With the guy that used to write for Reed because Reed had like a publishing company for a minute. But yeah, I know him. He's great.
He was the first time he sent something back, and I'm like, oh, this is markedly better than what I sent him.
Yeah.
Like, it was sonically improved. So then ever since then, I'm on the mastering train. But at the same time, no matter what.
It's still not coming back the difference of a mix and not mix or something. Yeah, exactly.
But unfortunately, a lot of clients, they've heard the term mastering. It's like very branded, and they're like, mastering.
We have to get it mastered. We have to get it mastered, and they think it does this big thing, and it's like no, you're not going to hear a difference. Like I remember one time I got something back from a mastering guy in town, a big mastering guy in town, and he sent 2 versions, and this was for one of Maren's songs. Sent it to Maren, her manager, and me. And her manager literally writes back.
Sorry, that could be like a 70s sitcom. Maren, her manager.
Sure, and me.
Yeah. That alliteration.
Yeah, you all live in a house together.
Yeah, exactly. And we're just like hanging out, like yeah, exactly. And it was kind of a weird thing. So the manager, I couldn't hear a difference. Like both of them didn't sound any different than the mix at all. And there was like some slight, I think it was like a 1 dB boost at 20K or something, And so her manager writes back. Is it just me or I can't hear a difference here? So it was just like a weird. It was not really cool. Like it wasn't really a cool thing because she was just kind of like, am I dumb? But I can't see a difference. So
instead of just like making up and be like, number 1 sounds a lot better to me.
Yeah. So it was
like you full of shit.
Well, it kind of made me mad because it was just like if the guy's gonna do that, like make it either sound pretty obvious or just give us your version that's best. Like don't give us 2 options we're supposed to try to decipher that are both the same. So I found
maybe that's his client acceptance thing.
That's his manipulation.
So, but I just
pick between the 2 rather than ask him for more things.
Maybe so, yeah. But the thing is, they both didn't do anything. So it's like, what's the point? Like the guys that I've really loved are Sterling Sound, Ted Jensen. If you know him, he's awesome. Like it definitely takes like you can get like a slammed mix, and he will somehow slam it even more. And then Adam Aon, he's up in Gateway, which is up in Maine, but he's awesome too. Like both those guys. So those are the first 2 guys I found that I was just like, okay, if I have the budget, I will spend it. But I had some bad experiences with people back in the day where it would come back like distorted or just weird stuff like that. And I was just like, there was this one particular thing. It was like a bluegrass project. So it needed to be pretty clean. You know what I mean? Like, there was no room for like saturation. And the stuff we gave him wasn't slammed or anything. It wasn't super loud. But it came back and it was like distorting and like it was just
like, what did you do?
Yeah, it was like, did you try to like wreck this? Like, what, are you kidding me? And we tried to back it off as much as we could, but it's like he didn't want to like go there. He didn't want to take it all the way back off, and so it never finally. It was good enough, but it never got great. So
now I know you have a little time constraint.
Oh, yeah, I know what time it is, but
we don't worry, it's only like 7 o'clock. We're fine.
cool.
And but there is one very important question that we do have to ask you.
Okay.
It's here's the deal.
Jaws. That's all. That's all I'm hearing.
If you had to choose,
And you do.
and you do. Now, the important thing about this question, though, is that the answer doesn't come from here.
Okay.
For the podcast listeners, he's pointing to his head.
That's right. It must come from here.
Okay.
For the podcast
From the heart.
listeners, he's pointing to his heart.
Okay.
You're like,
You're like,
Like, where's he?
like, where's this going?
He definitely wasn't pointing us hard. Okay.
I was a little, I don't know where my heart is. Who knows? It's moved around. No, now hold on, because what the important thing?
My favorite Jaws movie.
This is the first
Jaws
one.
4 for sure.
I like the
Jaws-
4D
more of a-
version from Back to the Future 2. I don't know. That's the one.
that was deep.
Yeah, that was deep. That was a deep cut. I like that. That was a good movie.
Jaws 5, a deep cut.
A deep cut.
Oh, you should write songs.
But what that means practically is that quick answer. Okay, I don't want you thinking about your response because the truth is everyone has an answer,
Okay.
but not everyone knows it. So it needs to be instinctual.
So you don't want it to be like thought and
I don't want you to think about it at all.
Your first thing. Okay.
No thoughts. First thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you had to choose,
And you do.
and you do,
Okay.
what would you say is your favorite kind of turtle?
Snapping turtle.
Dear God, we get snapping so goddamn much on this show.
Well, other kind. Wait, so what kind of? I'm trying to think.
What turtles even are there?
I know. I'm like, damn. Like, there's like Galapagos. I should have gone there.
We've never gotten Galapagos.
should've-
That's a
First
good
time.
one.
Yeah, I was just down in South America a few months ago, and we were in Chile, which I think Chile owns the Galapagos Islands or something. Or it's you fly there from Chile, and we
Sure.
thought about like because it'd be so cool to go there. But yeah, I should have gone with that one.
Oh man, it's too late now. We know what's deep in your heart.
Or desert tortoise.
We have
that
asked
one?
every guest we've ever had on the show that same question.
And what's the most common is snapping.
Snapping and box.
Yeah.
Box
okay.
turtle, snapping turtle.
Now, I gotta say, Jerry, I think
We've only gotten like 2 ninja.
with your speed,
Oh yeah. What if someone just said like Michelangelo? That would be like
that win.
hands down would be the
Michael,
best. You'd be
yeah.
like, hey, you win.
Who was your favorite Ninja Turtle?
I was always a Leo guy because I liked blue.
One of those, huh?
Yeah, no, I know. I know. No, it kind of does. The funny thing is, it kind of does say a lot about you, though. Like, I think.
I was
You know
always
what
a Donatello guy.
Okay.
Yeah, Donatello.
Yeah,
He's wearing a purple shirt
I am
too.
wearing a purple
For
shirt.
the podcasters, he's wearing a purple. He's actually shirtless. No, he's wearing a purple shirt. Yeah, because I mean, what were you, Raphael?
Donatello.
No.
Donatello. Okay.
Yeah. I thought I was
Raphael.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
disgusting.
You seem
That's
you,
an
you
insult.
seem like a Raphael kind of guy.
Wow.
No, that's like it's
Get
kind
the
of
fuck out of my studio. Get the fuck out of your studio.
exactly. No, this is my place. I probably still have a key that works. I
You probably do.
wonder if they ever.
Why don't you try it
Yeah.
out?
They definitely
Actually,
didn't
yeah,
change.
I
You
don't-
think
I don't
they
have it
spent
on
money
my-
to change the locks? Come on.
If I'm ever here when you come in the morning, you know why. Yeah, but
Just
like
laying on the
someone that says
With
Michelangelo,
size.
that means like a lot. If someone says Michelangelo, that's
Yeah, if you say Michelangelo, you're a stoner. 100%. That's
Yeah. Speaking of, you're from San Diego. Did you grow up surfing at all?
No, actually, I was a boogie boarder.
classic. Same,
Oh, wow.
same.
Yep.
Very Leo of you.
Yeah.
That's really interesting
Yeah.
to do.
I'm gonna start saying I'm a Leo, which actually the funny thing is I am a Leo in both ways. So
Sure,
there
sure.
you go.
But
Just in a
also,
full
like,
circle.
you know, this position of the stars
Yes,
affect your life
that's
zero.
what I'm saying, yeah,
Just like the
exactly.
Ninja
Just the Leo
Turtle
thing.
name.
So he kind of reminds me of Ko a little bit, our friend back in San Diego.
I see a little Coey.
Because
Yeah, a little
has
conish.
Well, no, you kind of look similar, but also
Yeah,
Co's one of my best friends back in San Diego. He's very much the same way.
One of our best
Yeah,
friends.
one
Thank
of
you
ours.
very much.
He's like, don't tell me what to do. Like, I don't like people telling me what to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So like, I just the fact like.
I wonder if
like,
Leo. I guess Leo was that way in the
Yeah.
show, kind of. Right?
Yeah, Leonardo, boogie boarding instead of surfing.
Yeah,
Oh, interesting.
Minivan
Yeah.
Instead of literally anything.
Wait, he had a-
Instead of anything,
Cubase.
Cubase. Interesting.
You
I feel like
know,
I figured out. I feel like I just went to a
Against the
therapy.
grain,
I think I
against
just
the
went to a
grain.
therapy session with you guys.
You
Like
got a
this.
little, like off kilter.
Do I need to like pay you guys after this for like the?
Yeah, it's 120 an hour.
Insight, yeah, the insight into
We've been
my,
going about
into
4
my
hours.
psyche.
You've got
No, but this is actually true.
alternate choices.
Yeah,
You gotta go against the grain.
Although I was
yeah.
a snowboarder, but it was Goofy Foot.
You gotta be.
Yeah,
you're
so you
goof.
have to
I
be
didn't
good.
know you were goof. I'm not.
Although
goofy. I'm
it's
standard.
actually, I think Goofy. I don't think it's quite 50%, but it's more common than you think. It's not.
Is it
like
really?
yeah.
They should probably name it something else besides Goofy then.
Yeah. Although
I didn't skate though. I was always a really bad skater. I would try a few times. But
I skated until I shattered my arm. Like I broke my
Oh,
arm in like
really?
3 different places. I still have like scars on my elbow. I think. From
Oh, yeah,
I
you did. I
still
can see
feel.
one, yeah.
That was like 7th grade,
oh wow.
and then I kind of never got into it after my arms healed. But yeah, it was a big thing. But I was not.
Yeah,
goofy.
I was
That's
way more into like
ridiculous.
dirt biking, but I was always in extreme sports stuff: dirt biking, snowboarding, and boogie boarding were the 3 main ones.
a lot of dirt biking going on in San Diego.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
If you live in East County,
Yeah.
I grew
Yeah,
up. I grew up in the city where there's
Carlsbad had a
zero
raceway.
dirt biking.
We had Carlsbad Raceway when
Oh,
I was
right,
a kid.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
up
it was a
there.
big
That's
thing.
right.
And that's been gone for years now.
Right,
it's like
right,
a bunch
right.
of houses or something. But
It was
yeah,
gone like 20 years ago or something.
yeah, a long time ago.
At my elementary school, like we'd be out for like recess, and there was like somebody had built like a really badass set of jumps at the property on the other side of the fence, but you could see through because it's chain link.
It's like the dirt jumps.
Yeah, oh, yeah, we used to always do
He was a
that.
super famous dirt biker at the time. I mean, this is like the late '90s. I think his name was like Jeremy something.
Jeremy McGrath.
Yes, Jeremy McGrath.
Yep.
He would. I gotta hit the button.
Oh,
He would be there doing things. And so all the
like
kids,
practicing on these jumps or
yeah,
whatever.
and so all the kids, we'd all go out there and like get signatures and stuff.
Oh yeah, I got his signature at Carlsbad Raceway one time when I went racing there,
Oh, wow.
like in '96. He was like the guy for years.
But it's just like you could go to all the skate parks and like there was a bunch of bigger skaters skating around.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
ever? Did you
Tony
ever?
Hawk was from there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
such
I had a
different
Tony
culture.
Hawk board. I was a big Tony Hawk
Okay.
guy. And then I went to X Games San Diego, and I didn't get a chance to get a signature from Tony Hawk, but there was some other like big skateboarder guy. I don't remember who it was. It was the one who was like the Christian skateboard guy.
There's
And
a Christian skateboard guy?
yeah, he was
Yeah,
like
I
that was
knew
his
that.
thing. And he and my
was
dad was
Hallelujah
like,
or
"You want to
something."
get his signature?" Yeah, right. Hallelujah. And my dad was like, "You want to go get his signature?" And I was like, "Sure." And so he was walking away. My dad just like grabbed my board, which was a Birdhouse Tony Hawk board.
Yeah, and got him to sign it. Tony.
That's
He's like,
awesome.
no, I'm going to pass on that.
And he signed it. He was good about it. He signed it and everything. And I had it for like years.
Oh wow.
It was legit. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't do many of those things anymore. I had a bad motorcycle accident like 8 years ago, actually up the street on Villa and Wedgwood, coming back here actually.
wow.
What happened?
From Taco
What
Bell.
kind of bike did you have? More
I had a
importantly?
Yamaha 600. It was like
Gotcha.
it
You're a
wasn't.
crotch
No,
rocket.
it wasn't. It was an upright, kind of like a Ducati style.
Okay.
Here, it looks kind of like a crotch rocket, but you're more up. You're not
Yeah.
like leaning over. And coming back from Taco Bell, coming back here to record, and a 16-year-old girl was coming the opposite way in Wedgwood, didn't see me, and turned left
That's how it
to
always
go
goes.
into Belmont's campus, and just turned right into me.
Fucking Belmont students.
Yeah, and so or she was 16. She was like her parents were teachers there, so
She was
got
getting
like
ready to go to Belmont.
yeah, she
though.
probably would have. So then I woke up 3 days later at Vanderbilt and was there for almost 3 weeks. And
Woke up 3 days later.
That's wild.
They put me in a coma. Yeah, I had 13 surgeries. I mean, it was like my entire life for a year and a half was that accident.
Shit.
Wow.
I always tell people I
So
had
this
a
whole
bad
time when I've
motorcycle
been bitching
accident.
about
and
my
it was
finger,
nothing.
you're like, you bitch.
That reason,
Yeah.
the reason that handrail is there, that wasn't there before. But like when I first started, I couldn't work because I couldn't come down the steps for the first like 4 months. I couldn't
Shit.
walk. I was in a wheelchair.
Wow.
So when they finally built that handrail, because I had to come down like so slowly for those first few months, I was like learning to walk again. So yeah, it was bad. So I don't ride anymore. But
Yeah.
That's nuts.
I got hit on the freeway. I was just some guy just changed
street
lanes
bike?
into me. Yeah, it was a Kawasaki Vulcan.
okay, yeah.
It was cruiser, and some guy just changed lanes into my front tire
Oh,
at like 70 miles an hour.
so you just saw it happen, and you're just like, oh,
I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I flew. I think I had to walk like it was like 30 or 40 feet back to my bike, but like I was able to walk back. Like I just got real lucky in how
So
I
did you
landed.
did you like lay it over, or what'd you do?
Oh no, I flew over the handlebars far.
Going like 65 or 70?
Yeah, it was like
Wow.
the fact that I was like if I still have the helmet, the whole front face is just like
I still have mine too.
gashes.
Yeah,
You gotta
same
keep
thing.
it right.
It's like the one thing you have to keep.
Yeah, it was terrible, but I was able to walk away.
Were
I actually
you
rode
wearing
home.
like a jacket and stuff?
Yeah,
like, so
full
you,
gear.
So you didn't
full
have
gear.
any.
No
that's
pants.
good.
I have jeans. My legs were all beat
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
But full jacket.
Otherwise, you would have
helmet,
been,
full
like, burned,
face,
yeah.
gloves, the whole deal. I was on the way to work. It was like 6:30 in the morning. But luckily, my bike flipped over, and slid down the rear. The rear brake was all jacked and the handlebars were bent up, but
still kind of rode.
I could still. I rode it home. The paramedics showed up. I couldn't move. My shoulder didn't work at all, but my grip was fine.
Oh, weird.
And they were like, "Do you want us to take you to the hospital?" And I was like, "How much is that going to cost me?" And they were like, And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to ride home."
So you actually
And so-
were there on the road when the paramedics showed up, and you kind of
Yeah.
just declined it. You're like, "No, I'm good."
And so to actually ride home, I had to lift my arm because I couldn't move my shoulder onto like this bent handlebar, and then I rode home.
I'm surprised they could legally let you go without like
Yeah.
forcing you into it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but they did. And then I sold that back and I bought a Triumph Street Triple,
Oh, okay.
and that was a much faster bike, much more dangerous, faster. But that was good shit.
That's what you needed next.
That's what I
after
mean. I
that.
was
So
like,
of course,
this bike's-
the logical
If
thing
I
is
was
to get a bigger
faster,
bike.
I would have been able to avoid this. Then that was a way faster bike.
Yeah,
that was
I think my bike topped out
at
at 113. It had like a limiter
Yeah.
or something, and that was as fast as it would go.
I took mine up to about that. That's as fast as I was able to take it before.
Really? I feel like every person who gets a motorcycle tells me like, "Well, I got up to 270 one time."
Well, if you get like a crotch rocket,
Yeah, if you get
those
a real
guys-
like a Hayabusa or something.
exactly,
Yeah,
they're
but,
going like 190, but
like
I'm like, where did you find a straightaway like that? Like,
Yeah,
weren't you
exactly.
like?
I went on the 8.
Did you go like 1 second at that speed and you were 10 miles
No,
down
no,
the
no.
road?
it is
and you're
crazy.
that's
how
what it feels
quickly
like,
you can
yeah.
get on bikes. You can get up to that speed in 2
Nothing.
seconds, and then you can stop in 2
Yeah.
seconds. Like you can get up there and back down in no time at all.
Yeah, I was just on the 8 driving by San Diego State at like 3 a.m. and I was like,
Yeah.
no one's around. Let's see what this baby can do. And just ripped it open.
It's crazy how
And
easy it
you
is
know,
to be going that fast.
And it feels insane because I had a naked bike too. Because trying to street with
Yeah.
naked bikes, no fairing, nothing.
Yeah.
And
So
it's
all
upright.
the wind,
And so
yeah.
I'm just like,
I
holding on for dear
I
life.
took one road trip to Canada with my brothers on our bikes, and it was about I think we did 3,000 miles, and that was a lot.
Wow.
That's a lot. On a
Yeah,
bike.
it was-
3,000. I can't do 3,000. I can do 100 miles on a bike.
It
I'm
was a
done.
lot. It was a lot. Like after like day 2, we were like, "What are we doing? We're idiots."
Your bodies are broken.
Yeah,
your
exactly.
Back's hurt, your legs hurt.
It's just like if you had like a huge cruiser with like a huge windshield, sure, but
Sure.
we didn't have those. Like we
You're
had
practically driving a van at that point.
exactly.
Yeah.
We had the radios on them and stuff. But
Yeah.
it was fun.
I had Bluetooth in my helmet. I felt so cool.
You were so young.
Yeah.
Well, so we need to wrap up. But
Okay, cool.
like
Yeah,
last
it's 9:15,
question,
just hit.
Like, if anybody was out there and they're hearing about Brad Hill, or maybe they've been following you for years and years and years since Scallelujah, like, and they wanted to know, like, okay, if you had advice for a young person who wanted to do what you do, like, what would your like token advice be? Or general all-purpose advice.
Yeah, I'm
like,
trying to think of something that's not cliche because there's stuff that you could always say
just
just like
be
that.
you. Everybody
But,
else is taken.
Yeah, exactly.
Rome wasn't built in a day.
It took
Yeah,
several
exactly.
days to build Rome.
I would say, I guess the thing that's probably helped me the most is just be cool to people and work hard in every project that you ever get. Like literally just act like it's the most important thing you've ever done. Because people just want to feel like they have some, people want to feel like you are their biggest fan, and you might not feel that way inside, but make them feel like you are, and that's, I recently building my studio and hiring a contractor. It was weird. It was the first time where I kind of, for once, could feel like maybe that's what it's like to hire a producer, because you're putting all this money and passion into something, and you're trusting this person with like your baby and your vision. And I was like, it was really hard for me to hire this contractor. And I was like, that must be what it's like for them to hire me. So on the flip side of that, it's like, they're hiring you to do what's most important to them. So just no matter what the project is, make them feel like they're amazing, and that will make the music better. That will make the experience better. And then everyone wins, So that's my little nugget I would give.
Awesome. That's a great nugget.
And use a PC.
And on that note, thanks everyone, as always, coming to hang out. Where can the people find you?
I'm pretty much only
Your
on
home
Instagram.
address is what I'm looking for.
Exactly. I don't have Facebook, Instagram, just Brad Hill Music. And then, I've got all music. You can check out my credits on there.
Nice. Oh, I always forget to ask people to like the last second, but we like to go out with like one of your songs. So like
you've worked
something
on.
you produced.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Off the top of your head, if you were gonna pick one, what would you pick?
I don't know. There's so many. Let's listen to a song that a girl just put out called Dear Me. It's about a girl named Maren Morris.
Okay, it's on Spotify.
Dear me.
Dear me.
Okay. So can y'all guys? Well, we're not used to having people in the back there doing
Yeah,
stuff
we
for
have-
us. Can you guys bring it up on Spotify or a thing?
So yeah, it's a cool song. She's a Canadian artist that just put it out.
Yes, a lot of Canadians come here.
There are. I've actually gotten into a lot of Canadian stuff recently. I know some people are a label that's up there, and so they've got a lot of work that I've kind of picked up through that, and it's been fun. They're really talented, and they're such nice people. Like,
Yeah.
almost too nice. You're like, wait, is this real?
Uh-huh.
Or do you really just like
Hey,
snap?
don't forget you got your mother's eyes. They gave all of your emotions away. Don't forget to not apologize when it ain't your fault anyway. Hey, a little self-sabotage is natural in every way. But don't forget that you're a total babe and everything is gonna be okay. Okay. When you're down, you're standing taller. Don't forget to drink your water. You're smart as hell, you're your father.